Oh, the mouse. Oh, I haven't been messing around with it.
And I wanted to copy a bunch of stuff, but these.
Yeah. Get rid of the paper.
I bring
I just need a minute.
Sure. Take that.
That open windows causing such a glare. It looks like you got a
I was gonna say, does it look like it has a halo?
Well,
What you do, they're putting you in the corner.
no, I'm just moving him over here.
All right, we can spread out now.
Yeah, sir.
You guys behave.
No.
Wait, here. Just do this. We need to use the microphone.
Boy, I don't have that. When do we? Wednesday morning. We'll be over here tonight. Meeting. Oh, yeah.
It's like being on an airplane, you're always happy to move seats out. Although in the old days, they used to get them up to the front, you know, when the airplanes work so quick.
I can't. Oh,
This is bizarre.
It's a good day.
let's go ahead. You. But, Thank you very much.
I don't have my own, so if you want to spread it out.
Coffee.
Ernest, he's still holding cold water.
What's wrong with you? We go get you a cup of coffee, Judge.
Okay.
I think Chef's
I'm ready, supervisors, if you're ready.
Okay, Ken is,
Is Ken there?
Ken is waiting on the phone.
Okay.
Yep, we're ready.
And we are connected. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi, Ken.
Joe.
Hello. So I am going to turn on the recorder. The time is now 9:36 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today is Monday, September 9th, 2024. The first item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Rich Rocco, Ernest Booker,
Present.
and Joe Pizarro. With us via Teams are Ken Smaha and Cheryl Harmon Tarana. Supervisors, at this time, we would need a motion to allow both Ken and Cheryl to participate and vote via Teams.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. On behalf of district management is myself, Belinda Blandon. District counsel Andy Cohen is present. District engineer Rick Schoppiger is present. Field manager Keith Livermore is present. We do have John Fowler with us on behalf of Landscape Inspection Services, and Bernardo Santiago, general manager of the River Club, as well as audience members present. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please stand for the pledge.
Please remove your hats.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Our first speaker is Tyler Cassell.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I just want to go through a couple of things that I find interesting, amusing, and concerning. Number one, you got your pickleball courts. We told you a long time ago you couldn't build regulation courts in that square. The courts you have are undersized, they're not regulation, but I guess that's okay. I've heard a couple of cases of players already falling and winding up in the emergency room. You can expect more cases as older people come back and find out they can't play a fast sport like pickleball. I find it interesting that you're talking about drainage problems. Now, we went to SwiftMud and told them that there'd be drainage problems. You hired your lawyer, fought it, you won, guess what? Now you got drainage problems. We were right. I find it amusing that you have some noise complaint discussions today. We told you there'd be noise problems, but you believe Shapaker's noise testing rather than the conclusions of two nationally known acoustical engineers that I talked to and sent aerial photos and plans to. They concluded there'd be noise problems, but you didn't listen. I find it concerning that nobody on the board was willing to spend $2,500 on a coder to get a professional second opinion about the noise. I find it concerning that you believe Mr. Shapaker's one pickleball, one paddle test as a conclusive test saying that tennis was louder than pickleball. So obviously there wouldn't be any problem, right? No. I find it interesting that nobody on the board took me up on my offer to take a ride down to Foxworthy Park and listen to numerous courts and the sound of pickleball. I find it interesting that you're now considering putting a fountain in the pond toward Portofino for $5,000 plus. Let me give you another prediction. It's not going to work. Why? Because the sound is different. Pickleball is intense sound. The fountain is a low intensity sound. You're going to have compound sound, waterfalls plus pickleball. Let me give you some advice. Get some case studies before you commit money and plan to do that and have a problem afterwards. By the way, for your information, the courts were not installed according to what went through city planning and city council. There were changes made at construction. Number one, the open drain hazard and liability that I pointed out now has a fence on both sides of it. The current cutoff corners that I pointed out as a crash hazard liability have been squared off. The gates are now in the front. The rear walkway past access to the rear gates has been eliminated. The seating pad on the east side of the courts was never in the original plan. And evidently, Mr. Shapaker must have thought that my liability issues were good because he eliminated both of them in the courts. For your information, I discussed the construction changes with Roger Clark, head of city planning. He sent an engineer out during construction to see if the changes were severe enough to issue a stop work order. Luckily for you, he concluded that it wasn't. So
Thank
is
you,
that the
Mr.
end?
Cassell.
Hmm?
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me a second. Our next speaker, can you state your name? I'm sorry.
Diane Maskell, but don't start my time until I distribute my pictures, please.
Hey, Rich.
Thank you.
Would you like some?
Thank you.
Just getting some photos, Ken and Cheryl.
Thanks.
I can stand, or I can sit, whichever.
Whichever.
Why don't you take a chair, Diane?
Okay, either way.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, I'm here because it's been just about 2 years since Hurricane Ian. And the first picture I gave you was the beautiful palm tree that we had in our cul-de-sac on Medici Terrace. The second picture I gave you is the replacement that is dead. It was planted just May maybe, and I don't know how much you spent on that, but it's really Charlie Brown Christmas tree replacement. It is not in any way comparable to what was there, and it's dead. So what can I say? We are frustrated. It was a year and a half that our Medici Terrace sign was down, and then they bought a wooden sign, spent the money for a wooden sign, and then we complained about that because everybody else has those beautiful metal road signs. So they got rid of the wood sign and gave us finally a metal sign, but it took about a year and 3/4. And the other picture that I have there is for the berm on Medici. 5 large live oaks were in there. Also 3 full rows of iwabukis. And when they went down in Hurricane Ian, almost 2 years ago, we were promised that that was gonna be rebuilt. If that was on my property, I'd be being fined right now by the POA Rules Committee and the POA Board. I just got a letter because I have a very small sidewalk because I'm on the cul-de-sac, but there was a mark on my sidewalk and I got a violation letter for that mark. Well, I cleaned my sidewalk right away. But all that landscaping is down for almost 2 years now. And when they did go in there and finally clean it up, what they did was, in their great wisdom, they dumped it over the fence, the broken fence, and killed all the shrubbery on the other side of the fence on Laurel Road. And that has been a place where people have been constantly, that's a rural part of Laurel Road. It only goes down to the park. It's very desolate, and people have been parking there and climbing over the fence. About over a year, maybe less than a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't know. Anyway, I had Keith out there with another gentleman, and he said, well, before they go ahead and replace it, at least they'll put up a no trespassing sign. Okay, 2 years later, there's still no trespassing sign, and there's no landscaping. So I don't know why we are the orphan of the community, but I can tell you, I speak for the residents of Medici. I know that most of you have not been down there. One supervisor I know for sure has been down there and seen the site. I implore you to go drive by that tree through the meeting today and see that disgusting replacement for our beautiful palm. And we need your help. So, and that berm needs to be planted. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Our next speaker is Mark Bayford.
Hi, I'm Mark Bayford, 494 Padova Way. As a co-president of the Community Association, I want to update this crowd on a few relevant items. Hopefully everyone received their parcels edition today. It's another very informative publication. Activities going on outside the gates. For example, the update on the Northeast Park. It also includes inside our gates. Tim Schimberg educated us on what snakes we might encounter here on property. Also, this edition features a great American astronaut, Suni Williams. Suni is the proud daughter of one of our fine residents. If you're not aware, she's one of the 2 NASA astronauts who've remained on board the International Space Station since the beginning of June. And we mentioned a lot of upcoming seminars and events. We have 19 scheduled seminars and events for this upcoming season. We're updating the brochure. We'll send it out shortly. All of these events are free to all Venetian residents. Some of these events are pretty costly, so you'll see a renewed effort on our part to increase our revenues. Presently, we have about 65% of households that are members of the Community Association. Best deal in town at $30 a year. But the Community Association wants to acknowledge and thank the River Club staff for their valuable support. From scheduling these events, Therese and Stephanie, to room setup, Josh and his team, and the audio setup with Miles. Due to time constraints, I'll just mention 2 events occurring in the next month. This year's annual candidate forum will be held on October 7th, beginning at 10 a.m. in our main dining room. We'll feature 2 races, one for Venice City Council in the morning and the other for CDD candidates in the afternoon. Parcels list the start time for all 4 candidate forums for these open seats. Residents are welcome to send suggested questions to our website, and this event will be taped and placed on YouTube within 48 hours after the forum. Today's CDD Tab 2 agenda provides guidelines on politically related events. Feel free that our candidate forum complies with these guidelines. Both parties of every open seat have been invited and all have agreed to participate. And there will be no political signage allowed on the premises. By the way, kudos to the Board of Supervisors for preparing for this meeting with their 224 pages of info. CPR, we will, on Wednesday, October 23rd, the Venice Fire Department will again provide hands-on CPR and AED training for our residents. This has been extremely valuable and life-saving for at least one of our residents. And I thank Renee and Ron Perlman for giving me permission to state this. Bernard will once again encourage and include anyone from the River Club and fitness staff who is interested in attending. Finally, the Community Association will add other sponsored activities. I have 10 seconds. Just yesterday, we coordinated a brief commemoration to take place at the Venetian entranceway this Wednesday in remembrance of the lives lost on 9/11. We'll place flags and have moments of silence when the Twin Towers were attacked. We must never forget.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rich Goodman.
Hi, Rich Goodman, 245 Portofino. I want to just thank the conversation that took place this morning at the workshop regarding the landscape architect. As you all know, I am a strong proponent of an architect to get a cohesive plan for our community. I feel that not only do we do that, but by doing all the work at one time, you get much better purchasing power. You'll get people who want to bid a $1 million project versus nobody who's willing to bid a $30,000 project. So I think that we can get a much better idea of what we need, what should happen. That some places may need to be reimagined. So it's not just replacing, but it's taking us into the next 20, 30 years, because our community is now 20 years old and it's been beaten up a lot. So we need to think about that. In terms of what Diane said, I agree with that. I've been to the Medici Circle. I've been to the berm. And as a matter of fact, I actually reached out to Ed LaValle, the city manager, to get him to repair the fence and do some of the cleanup of the shrubbery at the gate, and to try to determine who actually owns the fence, which turns out to be the town, as we discussed. But they were unaware of that, so they are looking at that. So if there's a problem with anything that's broken, the town should come back and fix it. I know there's one area where the fence is broken, but it's heavily covered with shrubbery, and they did not want to remove the shrubbery because that would make it an easier hop over of a fence. So they did not want to do that. But anything else, they're willing to come look at and do. So thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
And our final speaker is Darlene Schimber.
I'll stand up because Keith thinks I need a photo to be seen, so. I'd like to say that I truly believe we have turned the corner at the River Club. I feel that with the selection of our new general manager, Bernard Santiago, we are now on a road to recovery. He is innovative in his thinking and has proposed so many things that will actively engage the community and bring them back to the River Club. The great turnout for the Bucks kickoff on Sunday was a prime example. The bar was buzzing with people talking to one another, plus we won. So it reminded me of when the River Club first opened. One of the things that I've heard about was the possibility of us getting a pizza oven. I will tell you that I did a little bit of research with friends in other communities, And they said that it has increased their revenue between 25 and 35% since they got pizza ovens. If this should come to fruition, I think it would be to our benefit. I would also like to encourage the board to consider maintaining the a la carte breakfast menu on Sundays. Buffets can tend to be a tremendous loss in food and revenue. The a la carte has allowed for more expanded menu with several selections, and the food is hot and fresh. Changing up some items as we do for the lunch and dinner menu would also be a good idea. We have a great chef. Let's use his expertise to the fullest. The only negative thing I am going to bring up today is that we are spending more money on a venue that so many people did not want, which is pickleball. I can't understand why we don't do our homework up front and get things right. The Tiki Bar was a prime example. The offices that were built were another prime example. We take so much time and it's never correct. There's always something wrong. So my feeling is either get some people with expertise to come in here before we start any other major constructions or what we're doing, just as they're doing for La Sala and what we're looking at in there. But really, folks, I mean, we keep spending bad money after bad money, and I don't care how much money we don't make at the River Club or we make at the River Club. If we keep spending all this money on things that don't work, it doesn't do any good. It's just absolutely ridiculous what's going on right now. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. There being no further speakers signed in, we're gonna close out public comment at this time and move forward with our agenda. We're gonna move into staff reports. First item for staff reports would be the landscaping inspection services review of the August 2nd landscaping inspection report. This is behind tab number 1 for your review. John, good morning.
Boy, John.
If you don't mind, use your desk. Sure. I'm just going to quickly go over my report for the first week of August. And I'm mostly going to concentrate on the photos that are in the report so you have an idea of what's going on. The first one does not contain photos, but it's 2, 10, and 11. Basically, the state of Laurel Road, especially east of Venetian Boulevard. Just the overgrown shrubs that are there, and then some large weeds that have been growing up in the viburnum shrubs for a while. I will say that I drove there today and before I came here, and these items look like they have been addressed. So that is, we're going to mark that off for the next one. Next photos, the first photos to look at is 7 and 17. These are just an indication. There's a few more areas like this, but there's some vines growing on shrubs, which is typical this time of year when you have the wet weather. But we just want to make sure that's not constricting the shrubs in any way and making sure we get those off. Picture number 23. There's some dead alabuki just west of Veneto Boulevard. And their responses, they did say this is going to be scheduled to have these removed. There's not a ton of them, but there are a couple where just dead sticks where it doesn't look good right out front. Moving along to picture number 27. You have 3 newly planted Christmas palms on the first median right when you come through the gate. When I looked at this, they did look more chlorotic, and in their responses, they said they had been getting a lot of water. And I will agree with them that coming through today, they are looking a little more healthy. So we'll just keep eyeballing those as those establish. 51, there's a dead sable newly planted just on the entrance side as you come into the River Club. In their report, they did say this will be replaced within the next week or so. 53, the arboricola at the front entrance, same place where the dead sable are. It looks like they're being eaten by deer. There's barely anything to them. So I don't know if we want to replace those with a more resistant deer plant, but I would suggest anything around this area that's planted, because we struggled with that at the roundabout, that we question any plants that are going to be eaten by deer before they're put in. so we don't have to keep going through this. 50, lots of weeds on the brick wall. Just, you can't, I don't know if you can see it inside the pool, but you can really see it if you go in the community right there looking back. Those have been treated, but we just need to get those removed because it's unsightly and large. 62 is the pygmy date palm right before you enter the pool over by the tennis courts. This has been on several reports to diagnose and treat. Looks like it's not going to make it. In the report, they did say this is going to be removed. But my question is, we need to figure out why, and if we're going to plant another palm back there, we need to make sure that it's conducive to do so. So if it's not going to be a palm, maybe we should put something else if it is something that's going to hurt another palm moving forward. 68, I'm sure you already have a picture of this, but this is my picture of the Christmas palm at Medici Terrace. I don't think it's going to make it. I'm not sure. They did say they're going to have it removed, but I'm not sure who installed that, but it probably does need to be replaced under warranty because it never thrived since I've been looking at it. And that's pretty much the gist of this report. There's a lot more in here, a lot of detailed stuff, but I can answer any questions you may have. Yes.
John, let me use this one. I think you got an email from me via Belinda. Thank you, Belinda, for that. There's at least one, and I think possibly two medules at the front gate and on the exit side. I don't know, you may not have seen it because you haven't left yet, but I'm a little worried because it declined so quickly that it might be Ganoderma.
Yeah, it is. It's coming down.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It should be today or tomorrow.
Okay.
Green Top is going to be here to remove that and another one that has that
Just
word in it.
past it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because that one looked like it was sort of giving the droop there, so.
Yeah, so they're coming down and I've
We
been
can't
on
plant
there.
Can we?
Hmm?
We can't plant anything down
If
there.
it's
It was
Ganoderma,
Ganoderma, that's
you
it.
can't plant another palm. You can plant another tree, but not a palm.
It's interesting because the Christmas palms are in a bed where I think we took down a palm that had Ganoderma.
That I am not sure. The Medici one?
No, the one right past the guard check.
Okay.
I think that had Ganoderma.
I'm not positive. I can look at it. The one thing I will say is we do need to make sure it does have Ganoderma because a lot of those type of palms actually are from lethal bronzing. I don't know for sure if it is or not, and that's a whole different, you can plant palms there. That's why it's really important. The one huge indicator of Ganoderma, if you see it, yes, is the conch or the fungus at the bottom. So if you see that, then that's definitely Ganoderma. But I tend not to see a ton of the medules get that. They're more susceptible to the lethal bronzing, but that doesn't mean that that's not the case in these situations. So, but if it is determined as Ganoderma, then yes, we do not want to put another palm back in there because it's a soil-borne fungus.
The only other question I had was, in terms of the guarantee that's made on LMP plants. For example, we'll talk about it later probably, but there were 5 oaks that were put in on Passaro, one has died. So my question is, how are we trying it? Is Rosetta responsible for tracking that, or is LMP, or both? Or because one of the concerns I have is that things die and then they get taken out, and we don't know what we're due, I guess is my question.
Right. On my specific end, I'm not sure because I don't get a list of things that have been planted and haven't. I just come out and look at the site as I see it. But maybe I can work with other people in Rosetta and ask them those questions and look at them while I'm out there. So. Sure.
Any other
John?
questions?
This is Cheryl. I have a question actually for you and for Keith. Keith, the landscape committee talked about options for the Medici cul-de-sac. Are you going to talk about that in your report, or should we talk about it now?
We can talk about it now.
Okay, so the landscape committee looked at 3 options to replace that palm that's there now, which isn't doing well. One would be a foxtail, or a sylvester, or a medjool. And I want the board to know what the difference in pricing would be. The foxtail would be about $1,000. The sylvester would be about $7,500. and the Medjool would be 12,000. So I don't know if you want to discuss this now, if you want to have formal quotes on it, but I know that that's been a big issue and the people on that cul-de-sac are very concerned, as are we. So those are the options.
What was the type of palm that was blown down there?
A jewel.
It was a Medjool.
That was big, yeah.
And I think those are LMP's prices, right? Because I have to say, I asked my landscaper what it would be for a good size medjool, and he figured it would be 2,500 to 3,000. So I guess my question is that's a guarantee price, I guess, installed?
I think it should be replaced in kind.
Yes.
It was a Medjool, and I think everybody that lives there is entitled to a replacement in kind. So
I'll get quotes then on a jewel.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
I'll
ask
have this
around.
week.
You can ask David.
but again, if the one that's dying there, if it's something that is a disease issue, we have to go to a plan B.
Yeah, well, they'll have to replace that, I mean, because it is, L&P did install it, so they'll be replacing that to put it someplace. So those 5 oaks, or the ones that are dead, Cheryl, were you gonna discuss that?
No, go ahead, Keith.
Okay, those are being removed, okay, and put out on Medici Farm. Yeah, one is dead, but there'll be 5 replaced, okay? And put out there in that along there where they had come down, and then we just have to fill in with something else, okay? But then where those are located right now, bigger ones are being put back in there.
Right, as we had discussed.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I get, that just, and maybe it's a question for, for John. I believe, I've spent a little bit of time on the Medici berm. I think one of the reasons it's been hit so hard is the irrigation doesn't work up there. So I think if we're gonna put live oaks there, because I think I heard Diane say that 5 died, then I think it seems to me that maybe we need to address the irrigation piece first, because I know from Skip told me that the irrigation worked for about 1.5 years, and then
That's fine, but they didn't die. They got
well, they were
blown
burned
over
down. Okay.
in the hurricane.
Okay.
They were thriving and the hurricane blew them over.
But I would agree that anything you're gonna plant, you need to make sure irrigation is
for sure.
done there first. I will say that on Medici berm, I think live oaks will be fine, but I would not replace awabuki anywhere. They actually require a lot of water, and when they're sitting up on a hill, they're not getting as much water, and they tend to not thrive. So, and I have noticed in your community that you guys are actively planting shrubs in front of the awabuki to eventually remove those because of that situation. So.
Any other questions for John? Thanks, John.
Thank you. Rick, do you have anything to report?
Morning, Rick.
Good morning. On the agenda, there's a Bella Vista wetland. Keith's working with Cross Creek again. They just kind of started out here, so he's trying to catch up with a lot of stuff there. So the plan was to remove invasives from there, and then to see how much beneficial is still there, and to see if we need to add anything else.
Okay.
So that's the plan with that one. The second item was the fountain installation. Miles was out with the back injury, so he has been dealing with the electrician. I met with him prior to the meeting. Apparently the light pole out there that we thought we would be coming off of electrician told him that wouldn't work because those lights are on the timer. And so the fountain would only work when the lights are on. So I asked him, I said, well, follow up with them, and if we need to run power from the building, we could take it down that direction. So I don't have the price for that.
Okay, so it's still ongoing.
At this time. It looks like you're gonna ask me something.
I was gonna ask you about, oh, hold on. I was just gonna ask a little bit more about the Bella Vista wetland that you're looking at. So are the invasives kaput yet? Are they dead yet? Or no, this Cross Creek just started?
Correct.
Okay, all right, so we're still waiting on that.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Cause I was gonna ask you on a related matter, the Mar-a-Lago question that came up a couple of weeks ago. The board got an email from a resident. So in that case where we did some wetland clearing, my understanding from your email is that because there was clearing, we should actually consider or have considered putting in natives in order to replace that.
Right. I was out there prior to the meeting. I walked out there, walked both sides of the wetland. The outfall to that goes to the west. That structure in the lake is clear, no issues there. The two lakes behind the Asti are connected by a pipe. Everything's flowing well there. The wetland, there's a control structure in both the north side and the south side. And they're working fine, but there is a lot of vegetation around it. So I'm gonna request that Cross Creek go out there and then clear the vegetation from around that. So the wetland, the drainage system is operating as designed, but we just wanted to make sure the structures are clear also. And as far as the clearing that had been done, I'm sure it was probably the invasives, which you are allowed to take out. But yeah, right now it's pretty bare. So my recommendation is to plant the natives.
Okay, so I have a dumb question then. Do the plants help with the uptake of the water? In other words, if the plants are there, does the water level go down?
No.
Okay, because that concern I think somebody had was, in a hurricane, are we gonna have a bigger issue? Yeah, because of water levels.
Yeah, the
They're two separate issues,
structures,
I think is what you're saying.
correct. The structures in that wetland are probably at least 18 inches higher. So that wetland was designed to fill up at least that much higher. But both the structures, the intake is the double size box, so it will take a lot of flow if it would ever get that high. But then also the berm to the north, it would breach over that before it would get up high enough to anybody's houses. So that's our fail safe, I guess.
Okay, so then Cross Creek's doing some clearing around that structure then, is what you're saying?
I'm gonna ask them to.
Right, okay, cool, thank you.
And they're also, they were out there and looked at that area, and they're going to be giving us a bid on putting the beneficials in that area as well.
Then do we have that
So-
issue in a bunch of the other wetlands?
So from your investigation, our drainage system is working just fine.
In that area, yes, it is. And the last thing I had is the pickleball. Miles also was working with the paver, and the plan that we put together included the raised header, the curb right along the edge. They failed to put that in. I did reach out to them, and they said they will definitely come back to put that in. Dave sent me some pictures along the north edge. a little concerning there. Because he dug a small little hole, 1 foot by 2 foot, and the water level stays right at the top. So the groundwater right there seems to be very, very high. I don't know if they're irrigating those plants, and then we're also getting the rains, but the water level is very, very high. The riprap is trapping silt, and it will help lock it in, but that was a little concerning there. So maybe one thought is to run that header, the curb, another 30 feet behind court 1, because that's really the only spot that is coming through. Courts 2 and 3, that's far enough back that it's fine.
Could it be the watering system from the tennis court that's causing it?
Possibly, but it appears from the original design, we've not checked the elevations, but it's supposed to be pitching either north or west, not south.
So this will be addressed by the next meeting?
It should be, yes. Yeah, I know Casey Cox with the B and C papers said he was going to get on it right away.
Okay. Any other questions for Rick? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Andy, do you have anything to report?
Yes, good morning. I have a couple of issues. The first has to deal with, let me do an easy one first. At the last meeting, the issue came up with regards to Juniper and LMP. I'm not sure if LMP reps are still here or not. There it is. But just with regards to their corporate structure. And I did some quick research, and maybe they can fill in some blanks. But it looks like it used to be Landscape Maintenance Professionals, Inc., and that's where our contract was with. And then they became Landscape Maintenance Professionals, LLC, which has 2 authorized members. One of them is ORC Holdco, Inc., and the other is Juniper Landscape Holdings, LLC. So the Inc. became LLC. Juniper evidently has some management interest with regards to the LLC. So I do think that we need to do just a simple assignment or something along those lines of the contract from the Inc. to the LLC. So I don't know if you've been doing that in other districts, or if you have some information you can provide to me in that regard, but I think we need to take care of that.
So we need a motion for that, right?
I don't think we need a motion. I just want to make sure that we have the proper paperwork.
Okay.
Yeah, the COI and W9 were sent over last week, so you should have that on page 5. Is there anything more that?
I think that we should have a document, maybe assigning it. So I don't know if that's something you've been doing in other districts, or board, if you just want me to prepare something to present to them for signature.
That's fine.
Okay, I'll prepare something and send it over then. Sure. So that was the easy one.
Quick question on that,
Yes.
though. I'll talk loud. And that handles the
Okay.
questions on the insurances and stuff, that the contract will just make sure that Juniper has the
Yes.
requisite.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'll make a note of that, Joe. So the other issue is with regards to our ongoing discussions about political events in the community and at the River Club. You have in your agenda package what we've been calling the flyer, or the one-pager that the board asked that we put together. It's gone through a couple of iterations. I apologize for the frequent emails over the last week, but we wanted to keep, we sent it to board members, we received some comments back, so we wanted to keep updating it to make sure you had the latest and greatest. The latest and greatest was the one I sent on September the 6th. And I still have a couple of items that I wanted to go over with the board on that.
I have both of them. I don't have them dated.
It'll be the one that has the.
It'd be the one that has the little comments in the
So we
margin.
can share.
This one.
No. It's really, yeah.
Well, let me go over my comments.
Okay.
And we can have a discussion. Perhaps that will be helpful. The first comment I had in the margin was that when I did the first version, a board member raised the question of who's going to approve these events. Should it be the full board? Should it be the River Club? You know, something along those lines. And so our latest version, we just said that it would be subject to prior approval. We did not name the party. And I will tell you that the documents say, the declaration of restrictions say that it will be the owner, which of course is the CDD. The rules say that it will be the general manager, and I think that in the past, we have entrusted the general manager and management for events. I mean, they don't come to you to approve a wedding and things along those lines. So, so right now, we've just left it as prior approval. I'm interested in your input, but I think that that is sufficient and gives us the latitude that we need.
You know, we don't meet every day, so it would simply delay things if we didn't give the general manager the right to do this. So I feel it has to be.
And that is why we have management, for those exact reasons, that they have broad authority to hire, except for the general manager position. As we know, they have broad authority to hire and fire, and take care of the day-to-day operations, to make sure things operate smoothly. Okay, so I want to point that out.
So do you want to say then by the River Club manager?
I just said subject to prior approval. We certainly can say River Club manager.
Well, somebody's not going to know who to go to if it's not in here. Although it does say at the bottom, questions may be directed to, so.
Right.
But.
I'm open to either. But.
Yeah, how about if we indicate it as general manager?
Okay, glad to.
Do we need to say general manager as delegated by the owner? So that we can change it if we need to?
I don't see that need.
Okay.
I don't see that need.
We'll change it to say prior approval by the River Club general manager.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So let's see, the fifth bullet point says, no political signage is allowed on the property at any time before, during, or after the event. The event host may display a sign at the entry of the event designating the event. I just wanted to point out whether we want to discuss having signage within the room. Typically, somebody, as they're having an event, they may have, you know, a sign on an easel, or they may have a sign in front of them identifying who they are or something like that. I just wanted to make sure we got some clarity on that. I'm open for discussion.
Let's talk about entry.
Yes.
Okay, what do we determine as the entry? Some people think it's when they turn the corner to the River Club outside. So
I'm thinking in my mind, I was thinking inside. So,
but in your mind.
Understood. That's why we're having this discussion. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we should clearly define what we determine the entry to be.
Or we just don't allow any, and we leave it as is, where we just say no political signage is allowed on the property anytime before, during, or after the event. The event host may display a sign at the entry of the event designating the event. So maybe we say the River Club may display a sign, which would say, you know, come to the meet and greet. It's not gonna talk about any specific candidate or something like that.
Well, I don't think we should have any. The River Club property begins, as I see it, as we turn in here. And I don't see a need to have any political signs inside that area at all.
So why don't we, I'm gonna make a suggestion that we just delete that whole second sentence. So it just says no political signage is allowed on the property at any time before, during, or after.
Election day.
That election day, that's clear.
Well,
We have everybody in the world.
Those are different laws.
Right. Election day, they have their, 150 feet or whatever.
Correct, and the supervisor of elections.
Right,
governs
and
it.
they enforce.
So we can say other than election day.
Right.
That simplifies it, I think, because,
Yeah.
you know, there's a couple issues. Number one, that the POA has a rule about
Sure, they do.
about signage,
Right.
which is pretty explicit. And then there's the question which Amy raises in her memo that you shared with the board, that we don't want the River Club to be implying any kind of in-kind
Contribution
donation,
or
especially if we have
endorsement
people,
or
for
anything
example,
like
which
that.
many CDD
Right.
candidates don't file. So I think it's better if we just don't.
Okay, then that's the way I'll do that.
And that's going to imply the CA thing, I guess, too.
And then there was one.
Say that again, that's the
Well,
point.
the CA event, because I think, yeah, but there were never signs there anyway, though, so.
You're talking
I don't
about
know what type of sign.
the
The
candidate forum,
candidate forum,
in terms of political signage?
Well, we said
No, I
no
guess we never did
political
that.
signage,
No?
so
yeah.
if they want to
That's
put,
right, I guess we never.
I mean, let's say it out loud, but if they want to put a sign that says the meet and greet is tonight at 7,
And they will.
Right.
And they'll have, as they normally,
I think we're all okay with that.
Oh, yeah.
as you
Yeah,
normally
that's no
announce your events, be it snakes or whatever, you put a sign at the gatehouse, yeah, so, sure.
Or just like someone said, the Cohen wedding is this evening. Okay.
Congratulations.
You'll be surprised if Mrs. Cohen too.
My daughter's still in college, or be surprised all. Not impossible.
Andy,
Yes.
to the board, why wouldn't we allow the event holder to have signs within the room that they're meeting at? It almost seems like it's impossible not to.
Again, I mean, that's what we're discussing.
Yeah, I'm raising that question, that if we're allowing the event to take place, then it seems like it's gonna be impossible to enforce not having some signage inside the room of the meeting for the people themselves.
Well, if the signage you're talking about, Ken, is, turn right for the meeting or something like that, or tonight is the candidates forum, I don't see any issue with that.
No, I'm
My
talking
issue,
about,
No,
But
he's
I'm talking
he's
about,
talking
We're talking about vote for Andy Cohen.
Yeah, that's what he's talking
I have a problem with that.
I do too.
One of the issues you can run into, and this is where I agree with Amy's point at the end of the memo, is you run into the question of potential in-kind donation. Especially if somebody hasn't filed to spend money.
well, it just seems like if you're gonna allow somebody to have a political meeting, it's within the room itself, not public display. It just seems like they want some signage for their own candidate.
Well, and I know you have something to say, Jill, so excuse me for interrupting, but let me bring up one more bullet point of this flyer. Right now, the way we had it written, it said events promoting one candidate or a slate of candidates will not be approved. But we also talked about, if you want to, so I want to put this out in the open, if you want to rent the room and pay the food, and it's the Vote Andy campaign, I believe that in the past, we said that the Vote Andy people can do that as long as when the people that are against Vote Andy, whomever that is, Vote Belinda, calls and says they'd like the room to rent a room too, that you're allowing that.
Well, my understanding is that you have to actively solicit their comments or the fact that they were offered that right to have vote, say Jill. You
I'm
see
sure
my
I
point?
understand.
You're saying that at one time you indicate, the memo says that you could have a political event as long as you notify the other party.
Correct.
Okay, so in this scenario that you described, you have to see some type of proof that they were notified. The other party say, vote Jill or vote
Yes.
Belinda. Okay, how do we determine that?
Well, again, we're leaving it to the River Club management.
Yeah, no, wait, how do we determine that? That's it.
I think it has to be the honor system. I mean,
in politics? Oh, come on. I mean, I got a used car I want to sell.
I'll say this, and I should have said it at the beginning, which is that all of this is very fact specific, and we are never going to think of every single scenario that we can. We're gonna try and do our best to put down as much as we can think of in writing. There will be, because whatever you can think of, we should address. But we're not gonna be able to think of everything. And a lot of this is very fact specific.
I would think you would need some type of affidavit indicating that, signed by someone indicating that a good faith effort has been made to seek out the participation of the other candidate or something.
But I can think of a scenario, like we had a very late entrant to the city council race. You know, so timing could be, timing is a challenge too, so.
And and I'm gonna throw this out there, okay? Do they have to? Okay, so if it's the Andy versus Belinda, okay, and Andy's gonna rent the room and pay the rate and for the food and everything and have an event, okay? Then my understanding, perhaps I'm incorrect, is that we're going to allow that. But if Belinda calls the River Club and says, I want to rent a room, as long as the room's available, you know, the next night, then Belinda should be allowed to rent her room as well. But do I have to say that we also offered to the Vote Belinda campaign also? I don't think so, at least that's not the way I had understood it. It's just that the River Club would have to allow both the same opportunity.
That puts a lot of burden on us.
If you allow one, you have to allow the other.
Yeah, that's the other. And you have to show some type of proof that a good faith effort has been made.
Well, so,
to
but
invite
it's
the other.
No, you don't have to invite them. It's just if they reach out and want to use the room, then we have to allow it. See, I'm looking at it differently. Do you have to proactively invite them, and we can talk about it? Or do you just have to let them, if they reach out and want, if Belinda reaches out the next day and says, I'd like a room as well? And that's the way I was
And the
doing it.
perception is in the community, if you don't invite them, is that this board or this body, this building is supporting that particular.
I don't think so, you know, because
There's a
Belinda could
perception.
call, because you could say, well, Belinda was free to call the next day and ask for a room as well. We would have absolutely guaranteed her a spot.
Well, we could eliminate all this by doing what Richie says, just prohibit all.
So are you saying, Ernest, that it's only events where it's essentially the first bullet, right? It says if holding a public forum or debate, all candidates involved in the campaigns must be invited and have the opportunity to attend, which seems to me pretty fair.
Okay, that's a forum or debate. Right. That's different. Okay, I see the distinction they make on that.
But we do say if holding a public candidate meet and greet, all candidates involved in the campaigns represented must be invited and have the opportunity to attend.
That's the point.
So then what we can do, again, this is all for discussion, is just eliminate that bullet point that says events promoting one candidate or a slate of candidates will not be, I mean, we can leave it. I misspoke, leave it.
Andy, the statement in here, must be invited and represented. How do you define that?
Which one are you reading?
The first bullet
sentence.
point.
All sides must be invited and represented.
What if someone chooses not to come?
Yeah, they say
not
not come.
represented.
Yeah, I think we should as well.
Just say
So,
invited.
Must be
Yeah, that's, I
invited.
think represented has to be.
Right, because we can't make them
Correct.
come walk down here and be here. Okay.
So it should be our duty, or someone should sign an affidavit that Bernard invited the other group. I hereby certify I invited the other group to participate in this event, this forum, scheduled for Saturday and whatever the date is.
And a good faith,
Well, someone needs to sign an affidavit to that effect.
Do we need an affidavit or just a checklist, procedure?
I would feel more comfortable with an affidavit.
That has to be notarized.
No, I hereby certify that. I hereby certify that I did call.
I hear what you're saying about politics and all that kind of stuff, but I think we have to accept what people say. I think we have to accept that they're not going to try to subvert the rules, and that they're gonna be honest in their representation. I hear what you're saying about politics, I know. Your lips are moving, I understand the whole stuff. But we're talking about residents here and in a small community. I think we have to have some faith in them.
And we have, I'm hearing both points, and we have a checklist that the board has established, and your management team is supposed to do all the things on the checklist.
Ladies, please.
And everybody gets the flyer so they know what the requirements are. And
Yeah, make it clear, these are the requirements. You understand them? Fine.
Yeah, I wondered to myself, if people won't know this checklist or guideline exists, do we need to consider putting something in the rules document so people know, if they're booking such a thing, please check with the general manager for guidelines?
I think anybody knows that if they're booking an event, they have to check with the River Club, because it's just something, non-specific. They could be closed that day to clean the rug. I mean, I don't know. They have to check with the River Club for an event, and if they say it's a political event, Bernard will provide them with a copy of this flyer and say, just so you know, here's what the ground rules are for an event of this nature.
Fair enough.
So Bernard has to ask, is this a political event?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. He needs to know what kind of event it is. Is it for a wedding? Is it your kid's birthday party? No, it's an event for XYZ. Oh, that sounds like a political event. Here's the flyer with our guidelines.
That
It's
works
like
for
if
me.
it's a birthday party, I assume you have similar ones, say you're a security deposit and you gotta have the room cleaned by 2:00, whatever, Okay, so I think I have direction on the final form. I will revise it and I will send it to everybody. Okay. Second related topic was, I know there were additional questions about political events. And so Amy Farrington from my office produced another memo, which was dated September 6th, which I hope the board members received, and management. And I'm glad to try and answer questions about that. But the meat of it was basically, there were some questions asked about different forums and public spaces, and we all know that, First Amendment rights are sacred, but they can be controlled. You can't scream fire in a movie theater, things along those lines. So, this might have brought some flashbacks to Judge Booker about common law class, things along those lines. But we talked about the different forums and what you can and can't do in those forums. And the conclusion, at least of this memo, is that we're most likely considered a non-public forum based on the general function of the facility, and that use is not intended for public expression. And that as a non-public forum, the River Club can impose reasonable viewpoint neutral restrictions, which everything that we've done to date and what we've been discussing, I believe, is in line with that analysis. So there were some questions asked like, hey, this is America, they shouldn't be able to tell us we could do absolutely anything at all in the River Club, and so we wanted to go through some of that analysis and describe that. So, and then yes, as Jill mentioned before, we threw in at the end there, where we keep throwing in because we want to remind the board and management that there are issues surrounding campaigns that you need to be cognizant of in terms of endorsements, fundraising. We just want those to be front of mind.
Okay.
And so other than that, I'm glad to answer any questions on this issue.
So maybe this is where the question comes in, is there do we as a board need to think about something general in the rules about, you know, signage? No political signage. Do we need to do something like that?
I mean, I think we've got our flyer and, I think that's sufficient. We certainly can do more. It would involve, rulemaking
Rulemaking.
and
yeah.
public
Okay.
hearings and all that that entails,
Yeah.
which isn't an impossible task, but it's just not, you can't snap your
This
fingers.
is very helpful.
This
So,
might be overkill.
okay. So on that, I'm glad to answer any additional questions, and those were the only items I have right now. So I'm glad to answer any other questions.
Thanks for the research on all this.
Yeah, this is
Oh.
really helpful.
Amy is an elections nerd, so she enjoys
She responded to my.
She did a very good job.
Yes.
Good. I will pass it on. Thank you.
We were discussing during the workshop something about the waiver, so maybe, assuming Ken or Cheryl both also were talking about this. Ken, did you want to talk about the waiver thing with Andy?
What's the waiver thing?
Yeah, Joe brought up the fact that on homeowner application, new resident applications for access, both to both the community and the amenities, on the back side of it, there's a waiver that the new resident is supposed to sign. In her analysis, apparently almost half of the waivers weren't signed. And then the question came up, well, how old is the waiver anyway? And if we're gonna go through the process of having all residents re-up basically for access, should we ask you to take a look at that waiver to make sure it's up to date and appropriate?
I did, this was a email conversation I had with Supervisor Booker. I did an updated waiver. There was an old one that was still releasing WCI and things along those lines. I did an updated waiver. I'm gonna say it's about 6-8 months ago, somewhere in that time frame. Okay.
Yeah.
Super beats.
But I'll be glad to take a look at the one that the club or whomever is using this form is using, make sure it is in line with what I had prepared. And then, yes, they should be using it. That is the reason for us doing it. So.
Okay, I think
And maybe it is.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
it doesn't hurt to look. And so this is whose form? This is the River Club form?
Jill, you have a copy of it with you, right?
Okay, I think the issue was whether or not we could, Andrew, I think the issue was whether or not we could extend the waiver of a resident to visitors, guests, other individuals, okay, by blanketly signing on this
Yes,
waiver.
we do,
And
and we
I
do
think
that.
we can.
And we do that, yes, yes.
That was the issue in a nutshell. Okay.
I mean, nothing is bright line, and yes, we take the waiver, at least that I prepared, has some of those little nuggets from case law that says that you should include in your waiver to make it as, enforceable as possible. But, we all know nothing's a guarantee, but it's better than nothing. And as I said, when I prepared it, we included some of the things that I know from the case law and attorney general opinions. Hey, you can't put this in there, but you can put that in there. So this is inclusive of that. But Jill just handed it to me. I will be glad to take a look at it, make sure it matches our latest and greatest.
Yeah, they should be consistent.
Yes.
Okay,
Nothing bad about me.
we should also make sure there's commonality with the one we have for, I'll say a bad word, pickleball as well.
Well, I believe we drafted that one too.
Yes,
So
yes, we did draft.
no, I'm assuming they're in line, so.
In anticipation of all these injuries.
I will compare it to pickleball. Okay.
Yep.
That's why I was looking, it's most interesting. Is that all right? I'll see it and send it to you, yeah, because I think, yeah, because the question came up, if somebody's added later, if I'm a widow and I get a boyfriend,
Does it
year and a half down the
include-
road, then, we need to,
We may or may not
I mean, I
have to
have
look
to
at
sign
it
them,
to see
yeah, I
if
don't
it's
know, so,
inclusive.
okay, all right,
Okay,
that's
but
it,
yeah.
I don't need it, we're good.
Oh, okay. All right, any other questions for me?
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Amy.
Yes, thank you.
Bernard, do you have anything to report?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just go over real quick. Food and beverage revenue was 45,000 versus a budget of 57,000. Month-to-date cost of goods food was at 49.5% versus a budget of 45%. Last year, month-to-date, I don't know what happened, but we were at 83%. Year-to-date cost of goods, we're at 54.1%. Cost of goods, year-to-date budget, we're always at 45%, and year-to-date actual cost of goods is 54.1%. Month-to-date actual cost of goods for beverage is 28.3, with the budget of 33%, so we're doing good there for that month, with the month-to-date cost of goods at 34.7%. Year-to-date cost of goods, year-to-date cost of goods is 28.33%, with a month-to-date, year-to-date budget at 37.9%. And year-to-date actual cost of goods is at 37.8%. So we're working with the team very diligently with the back of the house team. I'm working very closely with Chef, and we are gonna control our food costs. And how we're doing that is we are costing out every menu item. I mean, to the sauce, to the ounces of cheese, to the slice of tomatoes, everything. And we have a Excel worksheet that we are working with, and it gives us the total cost of goods, and then we calculate to stay within the budget. And my goal is between 37 and 40% is where we want to be, and that's obviously pricing it correctly.
Food only.
Food only. Because I think a lot of, in the past, we've just kind of, made pricing or whatever the cost may be, and we didn't really look at the, what the costs are. And we looked at some of the menu items, and, when you got a $3, $4 price jump, obviously the residents are, oh, Bernard, man, these boom boom shrimp was $4 or $5 cheaper. But because of costs going up, we all know we can go to Walmart, and $100 at Walmart is 2 bags, where before it was 5 bags of food. So in order for us to be where we need to be, board directed, we're doing our due diligence, and I'm saying every single piece of something that we're selling is costed out properly. We're also doing, I'm getting with Chef on his menu, and we're cross-utilizing products so we can use it in different, so we're not creating, we have 15 entrees and, we got 15 different proteins for them. So we're making different entrees with same proteins and saving money there. I'm also working with the front of the house team. We have a lot of new faces out there, and we have a new menu that came out on the 4th. All of my front of house staff, and I mean all of them, are required to pass a menu test, because I want them to know the ins and outs of that menu. What's gluten free? What items are there? Are you, do you have an allergy? No, ma'am, you can't have that. So We want salespeople. We don't need order takers. And that's what the process we're gonna do now is give better service. People are gonna know what's on that menu, how it's prepared, so there's no questions. Just steps of service, when to sell a dessert, not when people are full, they're not gonna buy a dessert. You know, sell it in the beginning when they come, hey, save room for a bread pudding, okay? So now they sold a dessert. So those are the little things that we're doing on the food and beverage side. Just, train, and really train the trainer is what we're doing. And so that's for that. We got if you haven't been yet, we have a new 85-inch TV at La Sala, which has, it's been a pretty good magnet. We had a tennis tournament Saturday afternoon, and those of you who haven't seen me out on the tennis courts, I come out there 3-4 times a week just to say hello and see how things are going out there. And some of the tennis people were, hey, can we come and watch the tennis tournament on Saturday? Absolutely. So we had a few of the ladies out and watched the tennis, and it was great. Last night was, it was awesome. We had about 50 plus people coming through, in and out, enjoying the game, enjoying each other's company. And that's what we're trying to create here at the River Club. So we've extended our brunch hours starting this past Sunday to 2 o'clock to accommodate people playing golf or tennis or getting up late. So now you can come and enjoy the brunch service on Sundays until 2 p.m. Let's see. We're looking at starting a tiki grill permanently. So we're working through the logistics of that, what kind of equipment we need to purchase so we can service our guests out there on a regular basis, Wednesday through Sunday, full service hours from 12 to 8 p.m. So that'll be great as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you will be able to cook food out at the tiki bar and eliminate the need for
absolute
service.
Yes. So we're going to create a whole new menu, different menu, but it'll still have, be your hamburger, hot dog thing, but we'll also have grilled chicken meals. We'll have sandwiches available, salads available. So, pool food. And we're going to have servers out there to serve you. And everything's going to come. We have to work through Jonas so that none of the orders come back to the kitchen, because that's what was happening. That's what's happening currently. So we're going to have it to where it just rings up at the tiki bar. The cook grabs a ticket, puts up the order. The server comes and grabs it and takes it to your table. So, and that's about it. We're just trying to create events. Just really building relationship with the different committees and listening to what they have to say and working to see what we can do to make it a better place here.
Okay. Tell us about this pizza.
Oh, yeah. So we are looking at purchasing some equipment which is pizza related. We have some breakdowns here for you if you'd like to see. I've also created a revenue generation sheet that will show you the amount of months that we think that it will take to pay back the equipment. And really the longest, we have 3 different scenarios of how to pay it back. And I really think it's going to be people have been talking about it since I got here. And I think it's a great idea. The dough is going to be made fresh here. So we're working out the logistics of everything, but If you can see, we're looking to purchase a pizza oven and a few other pieces of equipment that need to be replaced in the bar area. And, I think with the pizza oven, we can repay all the equipment, whether it's replacement or pizza, in a reasonable amount of time. And then in the long run, it'll just really help with our food and beverage costs and revenue generation.
Now, one question.
Yes, sir.
If I read this correctly, you are also proposing to have delivery service.
Eventually, we wanna be able to, that would be awesome.
Yes.
There's probably a lot of logistics we need to look at, liability, do we buy a vehicle to do that? All those kind of things, but I think just getting it to where people can pull up to the Portico, come in or call, maybe we'll designate some parking spaces. They pull in, hey, I'm in parking lot number 2. Somebody brings the pizza out and boom, they drop it off. They never have to get out of their pajamas. They can order it, pick it up and go. Because a lot of people don't want to come out, but they want to be able to partake in the food too. So I think that's going to be a great opportunity for us with that. So, I'm asking that the board consider purchasing this equipment with the consideration of the payback spreadsheets that were provided to you.
You have enough space in the kitchen?
Yes, sir.
It's kind
So,
of tight back there.
well, we're gonna have to remove a few pieces of equipment in the back area, and the facilities committee, Tim Carr has been very, he's helped us. We're measuring, taking in the bids and all that kind of thing. So yes, all of that will fit.
And I think too, you're gonna wanna have the vendor come in and, assuming the board goes for some or all of the equipment, before any purchase is signed up for, I think we'll have the vendor, because it looks like it's all IFG, come in and
Correct.
measure just to make sure, we're not short 2 inches on the pizza oven or something.
Correct. As long as it fits under the hood, we'll be fine. There's lots of space in there, and once we take out equipment that is inoperable, it'll fit perfectly, yes.
And then if I'm right, looking at the equipment spreadsheet, most of the items on here are, if you will, new equipment as opposed to a capital replacement. Like the coolers, I think, are replacements of one.
Correct.
One that's broken and one that's about to be
Correct.
toes up.
So the only new piece in the bar is the keg cooler.
So Ken, do we need to ask Ken at this point for his input? What do you think, Ken?
We've talked about this a lot.
Right.
I don't, are we looking to take action on this today?
I think so.
Before the season.
Because I had a number of questions. So I've gone back and forth with both Bernard and Julie on this. I got some of my questions answered. First of all, the pizza oven and prep table are new equipment. They're not reserve items. They're not replacements.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
So they would be capital. So that's about $40,000 of capital. And you should be aware, the board should be aware, there really is no capital funds left in the River Club account. So if we're going to fund this, we've got to figure out a way to fund it, which means we've not budgeted anything for capital for the coming year, which means it's got to come from someplace else in the form of a loan, which has been done before, from one of the other accounts to the River Club capital account. So it can come from reserve funds, general reserve funds, River Club reserve funds, or some other source, as a loan that the River Club would then pay back, presumably next year we could budget it in the capital account, as part of the 26 budget cycle, and they could pay it back that way. But that's an action that would have to be taken. I had questions on the analysis that Bernard originally did, where he was including a lot of, in the first alternative with the 4.5 month roughly payback, he was including a lot of stuff that's not pizza related, wings, desserts, garlic knots, and the like. And he was also including equipment that was not pizza related, which is why alternate 1 and 2 came about, which tried to do it on a more consistent payback for just the pizza equipment. And in both cases, it still came out pretty good, even if you made a couple of assumptions, which hopefully you've had a chance to look at. So in the worst case scenario, or at least the worst case alternative that was presented, is less than the 2-year payback. And if the volumes are there and the pricing is there, it can certainly be less than 1-year payback. So I support the concept of getting a pizza oven and related table. I think it'll go over really well. One of the questions I had for Bernard and or Julie was, do we need the one that's recommended is the Baker's Pride Model 153, which is a triple oven or triple deck model. And looking at different alternatives, both Blodgett and Baker's Pride, I guess the question becomes, looking at the volume assumptions that Bernard's talking about, do we really need the triple deck, or can we go with the smaller one based on how many pizzas each deck holds? It seems like we could do that. Bernard, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think if we can achieve the volume we're looking at, I think we can do it really, we can exceed the volume. I think if we buy it now, the 3 oven, the 3 decks, and instead of realizing, oh shoot, we should have bought the 3 ovens, then you got another 25, then we end up spending more. Also, the pizza oven can also be used for cooking for catering events. You can fit hotel pans in there. It can be a warmer. So I think utilization of 3 decks is the best use of funds. Because I think we can use it for a lot more than what we're looking at.
And I think the delta between the 2 ovens is about 10 grand.
Yeah.
I did look at the model 153 online yesterday, so the cooking deck's 36 inches, so I think that's 2, maybe 3 pizzas per deck, but.
Yeah, as you stagger them, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just, that's my thought is purchasing, you don't wanna, we wanna grow into our equipment, not realize at the end, oh man, we should have got the bigger. So as we analyze how big of a grill we need, how many hamburgers can you put on the grill? How much pieces of fish can you put on? All of those things, we sit down and we talk and we analyze and, so like I said, with working with Tim, it's been a real exercise into finding out what would be the best way of our monies.
The only other thing I'd throw in here, Ken, is when I was looking at this yesterday, and Bernard and I talked about this, that the labor assumptions here have no load on them. And yes, I understand they're part-time, but do we need to have any kind of a analysis complete?
Fair question. You're asking Bernard, I assume.
Well, we chatted about it yesterday.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Bernard, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if we did for full-time employees, we're looking at about $2,600 in benefits.
Right, so it's about a little about
third.
35%.
Right,
Yeah, I personally, I think we should, and I'm thinking now about the payback calculation, so that it's rational, that it should have a full load.
Yeah.
Yes.
No other way to do it. So that's the only, so maybe that's the logistics of the payback period. But then the question is how the board feels about the list of equipment overall.
I think the equipment is, if we're gonna go through with having pizza available, the equipment is necessary. The question that I have is, do you feel that making pizza available as a menu item is going to negatively impact the sales of other items that we normally have?
I think adding pizza-related menu items will increase our total revenue. So right now, I mean, if we're doing 45 people on a Wednesday, to me, that's not good, right? So we want to increase, maybe get 100. So on Wednesdays, on our hamburger nights and our pasta nights, we are packed.
Yes.
I mean, literally, every seat in the house is packed, the bar is packed, and we have 15 to 20 to-go orders all at the same night, which I hear is great on off-season. So we're, if we can create more opportunities to bring revenue, I mean, who cares if it's a steak or a pizza, right? We just want to create revenue at a profitable, and your pizza is probably your most profitable item. So, and we're also creating to-go opportunities. So just the opportunity to increase our revenue is, I think, the most important thing. Because even on your menu, you have loss leaders. We don't have the profit margin. You're not going to realize the profit margin that you want on a steak but you got to have a steak on the menu. So, it's about product mix. It's about, creating all those opportunities. And I think the pizza and related food opportunities will really create a nice revenue stream and consistent.
Well, plus you're talking about doing it on nights that we're not open for food.
Correct.
How many homes in here would love to be able to come up here and get a pizza on a Sunday night?
Correct.
OMG.
So your thought is not to include this as a regular menu item every day that you're open? It's gonna be certain days that are gonna be pizza days?
Oh, no, every day is going to be pizza day.
Because my concern is that, as you mentioned, steak, people are not gonna split a steak, but they are gonna split a pizza.
Correct.
So it's still your feeling that the profitability will offset that sort of thing?
Correct.
Okay, I have one basic question and concern. The pizza type.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people prefer Chicago. Some people prefer New York. And some people prefer Jersey style, And that's the thing, okay? What will ours be? Venetian style?
Well, that's something we're gonna let our chef create. I think that's his background as well. He did pizzas at his own, in his own restaurant.
He's a Northeast.
So, I think obviously we want to try to appease the masses. So having different types of pizzas create, so, I'm gonna leave that up to the chef.
I'm all in.
Supervisors, we're getting close to the 2-hour mark.
Right.
We have a very long agenda. I hate to interrupt, but we're still on staff reports and we have a lot of items to cover.
Before we get to topics, yeah.
I think it's a winner.
So
Okay, Jill,
Yeah,
just to your question, which is a great one, adding benefit rates at 31% adds $2,430 to the monthly cost of labor, which if you look at alternate one, I'm sorry, profit per month down from 47.57 to 23.27, and more than doubles the payback from 8.4 to 17.2, which is still good. I think anything, a 2-year payback or less is very good.
Yep.
The issue you run into is if you go to alternate 2 and do the same thing, all of a sudden the profit per month becomes a $643 loss. So it does come into play if the estimates are off by 10% cost or 20% less volume, then this becomes, less than break even. So I just want to point that out. I'm in favor of it. I think we desperately need this service, both for takeout, to go, for in dining, for the tiki. I think it's a great idea. I just, that's the only reason I was questioning the size of the oven, because that $10,000, does make a difference. But I do believe this will be successful. We're talking about 220 units a month, which I think when I did the math, it turned out it was going to be like 15-16% of the community has to buy a pizza every week.
That's what.
probably low. Plus, the other thing not included in here is additional alcohol purchases. I think there's a lot of things that are make the analysis. So can we, to Belinda's point, can we go ahead and have a motion so that we can get some movement on this, or do we need to do more work?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
I think it's something that we can move ahead with.
All right, Ernest.
Okay, I make a motion that we move forward with the purchase of a pizza oven, the 3-level oven, in the amount of, well, I shouldn't say the amount. I'll just say the 3-level pizza oven.
Do you want to make your motion for the whole list of
How about the
equipment?
Oh, okay.
The bottom line?
Okay, 61,120.36. That's my motion.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed, yeah.
Not to exceed.
This is to be paid from where?
You have to put that in a motion.
That's the
Well,
question.
we're gonna have to take it out of,
Or we'll borrow it.
the capital items are gonna have to.
Well, why don't we split the motion and have a second motion to address the payment?
Okay.
All right,
So Jill seconded that.
yes.
Any further discussion?
The bar back, I believe that's reserve item. I think the pizza oven, the prep table, and the salamander become capital because I don't believe we have any of that.
And the keg cooler.
The cake was not a replacement,
It's
so,
not a replacement.
so then but where it's paid for can be, how it's paid can be included in the motion too, right, which is,
Well, we're gonna do a separate motion on
right,
that.
from that.
So
Okay.
let's just get this motion.
Right.
If we can, if
Yeah.
there's any further discussion,
Okay.
and then we can talk about how you wanna pay for it, per Ernest's recommendation.
All those in favor, please state aye.
All right.
Aye.
I
Okay.
Now, Ken, I need you to do the next motion.
I don't know if you heard that.
You
Ken,
might need
there-
to do the next motion, Ken.
Ken,
Oh, I'll get my calculator.
Well, it's there.
It's the 61,120 minus the two coolers, yeah?
Yeah.
The two 60-inch coolers.
And the bar back.
11,841.26 from 61,120.36, yeah?
All right, so 50,000.
So you're looking at basically transferring about $50,000
$50,000.
Yeah, borrowing, yeah.
from, well, I would take it from the River Club Enterprise Reserve, where I don't believe, well, let's see. No, we've spent 216,000, I'm not sure what else. And we've got some other big things coming up that we haven't talked about yet. That's gonna hit those reserves. So my inclination might be then to take it from the general fund where we've got more flexibility.
Makes sense.
We've only spent 45,000 out of a budget of 384,000.
All right, so.
Can I talk general fund reserves? Or just the general fund?
The general fund reserve, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, I just want to make sure.
Well, that way it's reserve to reserve, basically.
Yeah, I
know
like that.
we separate capital from general reserves or normal reserves, but I think taking it from the general reserve fund as a loan
2 years, yeah.
would be appropriate. And I think you can make it like a 2-year loan to give you give yourself some flexibility. So I'll make that motion to have the general fund reserve loan the River Club Capital Fund $50,000 to be paid back over the next 2-year budget cycles.
Starting in 25, 26?
Yes,
Starting in the next fiscal year, not.
that would be the first year we start, right?
Right.
Is there a
Well,
second?
it would be the 2026 budget cycle.
Second?
Right.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Okay.
Wow. So one last thing on our end that we need to discuss is, the games.
Yeah.
Card games, and I know it's not gonna make a lot of people happy, but I think, we need board direction, right now. There's, people come in, they play games any time of the day, but there's no regulation where to play. We're in the bar, we're in the restaurant during restaurant hours, we're in different rooms set up, and, once season comes, it's gonna be a problem. And, I'm proposing that we regulate the card games to Monday and Tuesday since we're closed. Have that at 8 o'clock, whenever we open till we close. Come and play, but during normal operations that we don't allow for card playing.
I don't think you can allow card games to interfere with service in this building. And I think your proposal of Mondays and Tuesdays, when you do not have a dinner service in here, is just fine. So I would support that.
And that includes the bar, I guess.
Correct.
It's fair.
Correct.
It's perfectly fair.
that's, do we need a motion?
Bernard, quick
Yes, ma'am.
question. There are some nights where people have come in and wanted to do the entire back room for games. Would you allow that as a special circumstance? Or,
I think then that opens a can of worms. I think game's a game. And I'm hoping to get people in the club to come for dinner. And if we need to use the outside rooms, that they need to be available. So, that really just opens, well, if they can play their game here, why can't I play my card games here? So I think if we just, game night is Mondays and Tuesdays, all day, Monday and Tuesday, and the rest of the time it's, and then then they can use the bar. They can use the rooms, they can use, because we're closed. So that's my proposal.
I think that solves all the problems. So I would support
I think
Monday and Tuesday become.
to Ernest's question, I think board direction is fine. I'm not sure we need a motion.
Okay.
You just,
And I think this needs to go back to social and dining, because Bernard, although I completely agree with you, then you've got the whole other issue of the rules within Monday and Tuesday. Who can play, and we can have that discussion later. I don't think that needs to be
Yes.
forwarded by, but I agree with your recommendation.
Okay.
and then just it's Mondays and Tuesdays, subject to other meetings that are scheduled, like CA
Correct.
seminars or
Correct.
POA meetings or whatever.
So like we'll block off this room so there's no access. Because on Sundays, we preset for once a month meeting here, we'll just block it off so people don't have access.
Yeah. I think as long as they know that we're,
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
Okay.
good idea.
Anything else, bro?
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome.
Should we discuss that trash rocks? Okay, there was one other issue that came up, Byron. There was one other issue that came up at the golf club, talking to several of the golfers, with regards to charges for drinks here at the River Club that included extra cost for ice and soft drinks. Okay, and there's a perception over at the golf course that, there's extra money being made or charged for premium drinks as well as others,
Sure.
which I brought to Bernard's attention.
So I think because we have a new POS system, traditionally rocks, when you order a drink on the rocks, it means ice. So people think, and Jonas lists rocks and charges 50 cents. Actually, what's happening is we traditionally pour an ounce and a half of liquor, and rocks means another half ounce. So we're charging 50 cents for that extra half ounce. So we're gonna go into Jonas and change that, because rocks really should be a descriptor for the bartender. I want scotch on the rocks, and there shouldn't be on there. The soda charge, I don't know why Jonas does that, but I think it's because they're trying to be transparent. It's 25 cents for the mixture, the soda, whatever. It just should be rolled into the price of the drink.
Absolutely.
So about $6 plus 25 cents for the soda plus 50 cents for the rocks. So again, we don't realize these things because of the new system. We don't find out until we actually ring things up, right? We're gonna find the bugs, we're gonna find the things that we need to change, and because it's a new system, that's what, and I appreciate that, because it's just really a descriptor, and we're gonna change that.
Yeah, that was in the old system too, Bernard.
Oh, okay,
This ice thing came up several months ago,
okay.
and I thought we put it to rest by explaining that, but apparently it's resurfaced.
Yeah, because it's showing on the actual guest check,
Okay.
Yeah.
so we don't want that.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Keith, do you have anything to report?
Not really at this time. We're moving forward with the gate entry system. We'll have a meeting Wednesday with Ken and the players, and finally finalizing that and getting the timeline finalized on that happening. The cul-de-sac, the Medici cul-de-sac, that palm tree's been removed. I'll be getting quotes for Medjool palm to replace that. The 5 oaks will be repositioned this week, along with the irrigation that it's gonna need to take care of that area. I mean, there is irrigation out there, it just needs to be rehooked and ready to go.
Hang on, Keith. Ernest left the room, so we don't have a quorum. Why don't we just take a 10-minute break?
Okay.
We'll take a break.
Okay.
Let's take a 10-minute break, and we're off the record at 11:22.
What we didn't do, I said,
I noticed we paid all the aquatic consulting bills. I just wanted to make sure, how did, in your opinion, how did the cleanup go of all the preserves, and have you gotten any feedback from other residents?
Yeah, we're all done there. We're finished there. And it's been good and bad as, from the residents. Some, thought it looked great, did great, and others weren't, excited about having some of that area cleared up. But it was just, they were just encroaching so much that, you know, the mowers were getting pushed further and further away and unable to mow, so, but, you know, so it was a mixed bag of, with the way people felt about it.
Is there any follow-up on any of those that needs to be done?
No, there's one area that, that we didn't do, and it, I had him come back out and take a look and get a quote, but I'm gonna get another quote from, I thought it was just a little pricey. It's $1,400, but, I'm gonna see if, we can get it done through another channel. Either Dan with his chainsaw and weed eater, and maybe, I'm gonna have Cross Creek take a look.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to see how the rest of it went.
Yeah, no, I think it looked great. For the most part, there's some areas that, like we were discussing during the, when Rick was here, you know, yeah, you didn't see the water because it was covered up with all that vegetation that really shouldn't have been there. And now that it's not there, you're gonna see the water. But I got Cross Creek looking there too to put some beneficiaries back into that area.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Keith?
Just two real quick. The gates that are kind of a little busted up by the zip ties and lights, are we looking at replacing those?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I can replace them. Yeah, it's $800 to replace it. If we're fortunate enough when that sign comes down to a resident, you know, sometimes it might be our gate's fault that comes down. And sometimes it might be a piggybacker trying to get in, and you know, they only really hit the gate when there was the welcome home sign on it. I don't know why that was, but.
Thank you.
Is it broken now?
So, but when there was stop signs on it, nobody hit the bloody things, but you put a welcome home sign and somebody, so, yeah, but it's $800 to get that replaced. The zip ties, yeah, it's not the most, but it's, you know, versus the cost, so.
Yep. Okay, that's all I have.
All right.
Thanks.
Oh, I have one question. I think we discussed it earlier. What are we doing about locking the pickleball courts?
Well, there's what I need a time. I need, you know, when and who's going to open it. And the other side is it the guards, you know, I don't know if they're paid to do that. I don't know if that's in their description of what to do there to lock that up at night, and who's going to unlock it in the morning and what time it needs to be unlocked in the morning. We can definitely do it because we did it for a little while and then it stopped. But if it's 6 o'clock and it's in the parameters of the guards to do that, you know, it's just a phone call.
Yeah, I saw it.
Who was
Your
doing
email, I saw your email, Jill, about these trespassers as well as the fact playing after hours.
And then we got the tennis lights, because people are
then
gonna be
the
using
tennis-
the tennis lights to play pickleball.
We need to decide or give some direction to Keith as to what we're doing.
Who was locking them when it was working? When the system worked?
The guard was locking them,
Right, and
and then the young man that was coming in for Dave,
he was.
or Dave himself was unlocking.
Right, of course, tennis folks are in here early. So
8
the
o'clock, I
unlocking
think.
doesn't seem to be an issue. But it's the lock.
6 o'clock. Josh,
Oh, that guy, okay.
So, as far as unlocking them, I don't see that as being an issue.
It's not really an issue. There's somebody here, but we need to have a time, because you don't want somebody going in there at 6. You know?
No, I think we do have the time there. It says 8 o'clock, doesn't it?
8 o'clock.
It's at night?
No, 8
Oh, yeah.
a.m. And then why do we have a problem with it being locked at the end of the day? The guard won't do it anymore?
Well, they haven't, I think it was postponed, and it hasn't been done. But my question is that fall under the guards to get out of that car and go and lock those up? And where does he get you can put you can just put those chain locks right there, and then they have the combo and put them on the gate. And it's not a,
Yeah, I don't see why we can't have the guard do that, direct them to do that if that's what the board wants to do.
okay,
Yeah.
easy enough.
Fine.
Okay.
So
What time?
Not for me.
we're supposed to be no later than dusk. So what are we talking about this time of year? We're talking about 7:30?
No, it's dark before then.
Start before then? I don't know.
Just go from 8 to 6 daily, I don't know.
We'll have to change the rules.
Well, you have people get off work at 5 and would like to play.
I'd like to eat dinner on Mile 9.
Well, 6 o'clock is only going to work there at within 2 months or so, it's dark at 5. So,
I'll resolve it today.
we can make it 6 o'clock. And if there's an issue, we'll deal with it. But for right now, we gotta have something.
Right.
We're just kicking this around, so
Okay.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
8 to
6 p.m.
And I'll get with Doug or Dave and tell him to let his guys know to unlock it at 8. Fantastic.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Okay. On my end, supervisors, I do have an update on FEMA. We have received a determination from FEMA for 2 of our project categories. We have been, 2 of our projects have been determined ineligible. The signage was one. The second project was for the tennis court, canopy damages, the lift station damages, and the fencing damages. This was expected. The determination was due to, obviously the fees that are charged. We were expecting this, obviously, because we're experiencing this with other districts as well. We do have the right to appeal the decision. We have not received a determination for the debris removal. We have until October 24th, right,
To file an appeal?
to file an appeal.
How much do those 2 add up to that were denied?
The signage was, signage was over 15,000. So I believe we have until October 24th to file an appeal. The signage was $18,481.55. And the other project was a total of $5,000.
What expenses do we incur if we decide to appeal?
Attorney's fees,
$5,812.55.
which was for what?
That was the tennis, tennis court, canopy, Citadella.
The debris removal was what, about a couple hundred?
Debris removal was, let me open up the
It
damage
was
inventory.
200.
So if we appeal, we have to, the courts involve concerns attorney fees? How much are you estimating?
I don't know for sure. I can tell you that I have, as Belinda said, I think Belinda actually has a district that was successful, but it was not a gated community. At least their claim that was successful was for outside the gate.
Yes, I was successful with one, but everything was outside of the gates.
Everything that's been behind gates, I'm not aware anyway of any CDD that's been successful. I do represent Greyhawk Landing with,
209 was debris.
209 for debris removal.
I do
Well, that's the big
represent Greyhawk Landing with Belinda, and they were denied. They have elected to proceed forward with an appeal. Our office is preparing documents in that regard. I have a couple of districts that decided it was not worth appealing. That's up to you. I mean, right now, we're at 23,000 that's been denied. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm gonna guess they're gonna deny the other one. It hasn't happened yet, but probably will. It sort of comes down to a financial decision as to what you wanna do.
How much is the cost for legal?
I can't give you a definite number, but you know, if we're talking about 23,000, I can almost tell you it's gonna be more than that.
Well, I think if we're gonna be appealing anything, we should be the debris removal if that is denied. Because we're talking about
A more significant amount.
number here, whereas this, it's still, of course, it's still money, but it would make no sense to spend an equal amount in legal fees and then still be denied.
That would be my recommendation,
That would
but
be-
ultimately it's up to you. I don't wanna see you spend more on attorney's fees than you're gonna recover. And I think $23,000 would go fairly quickly.
Absolutely. So I thank you for your honesty on that. And my suggestion is that we do not appeal it, these two denials.
I agree.
We will need a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I agree. I can't see that, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
They're denying everybody.
Okay. Can we call it?
Well, and
Go ahead,
not
Cheryl.
only that, the chances of winning on appeal are slim.
All those in favor, please state aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
So I am working on the Greyhawk appeal with Amy. Greyhawk has chosen to appeal all 3 denials because they were denied for debris as well. So we're starting that process, but according to one of the program delivery managers that I've spoken to, appeals are taking up to 1.5 years. So it is a process. And we're preparing ourselves for that process, but it is extensive. But I will keep the board apprised. Supervisors, we do have representatives from Kimley Horn here with us, and Cheryl is going to drop off because she's going to be leaving. But I'd like to move that item up
Sure.
on the agenda if we could.
Thank you.
And they look over 29.
That was a compliment.
So we are gonna move up the consideration of the proposal received in response to the landscape architect RFQ, which is behind tab number 9. We do have representatives from Kimley Horn present. As part of the RFQ, there was a requirement for a presentation.
Testing.
We do have Matt Dunn here with us. Matt, welcome.
Thank you all. I think
Good morning.
we're at a good afternoon now. I was gonna say.
Wait.
Getting close to afternoon, you're correct.
But yeah, I think what Ed and I, this is Ed Dean with Kimley Horn as well. I think what we'd like to do, obviously you all have the 52-page RFQ document, highlights a number of the projects that we've done, but I think we'd like to just give an overview of who we are, our background, our practice background, overview of who Kimley Horn is, and then kind of leave the rest for a Q&A, because I think we'll get as much out of that as you will. But again, I'm Matt Dunn. I'm a professional landscape architect. I've been with Kimley Horn for about 9 years, which is the age of that mugshot. So hopefully I do look a little bit older. My specific practice background is kind of split between single family and multifamily residential projects, both doing code required plantings, but also amenity design, so such as the pools, the recreational courts, and then the other half being more senior living, larger senior living campuses with assisted living, independent living, memory care, and miscellaneous amenities. I'll give a little background on yours.
Yeah, Ed Dean, I've been with the firm for going on over 12 years now, all out of Sarasota here. And like Matt, I've supported a lot of similar projects as well as parks and other amenities. I heard reference to Northeast Park. That is a project that our firm is doing, not necessarily Matt or myself. But we're very familiar with the area, working with the city of Venice. And I've actually had a little bit of history working here in the neighborhood dating back to 2019.
And I think Kimley Horn's involvement, honestly, with Venetian dates back to 1999 or 2000. We were a part of all the entitlements and the master planning, all the stormwater management, utility design, landscaping. I don't believe we did the amenity design. But locally in Sarasota, we have about 120 employees, 22 landscape architects, 9 of which, including Ed and myself, are licensed. We also have 2 certified arborists, so we do a lot of tree assessments and assistance, whether it's one tree or a total tree survey. So, if we were to get started on this, we definitely have the bench and the resources, the local team to assist with this almost immediately. I think most recently, the most recent CDD that we've worked with is University Park Country Club up in Manatee County. Kind of got their $18 million bond release within 3 months of providing an engineer's estimate. We now serve as their district engineer. But we're kind of gearing up to start that project, 2 new buildings, enhanced landscaping, and miscellaneous amenities. And I think Ed's worked on this community most recently with some single family landscape plating. I don't know if you want to you can give a little more detail.
Yeah, I'm sure some of you may have been familiar with the project that I'm referring to, which was ultimately working through Pulte, the developer at the time. But that was working in a couple specific neighborhoods within the Venetian here to work through some preliminary plat amendments with regard to landscape plans. It also involved the golf course and some plantings that were done out there. And I've also done similar work for your adjacent neighbor at Willow Chase. So we're familiar with working in the area and have done it quite a bit.
I think that's kind of the background and overview that we wanted to give you all. Obviously, there's a lot of projects that we've touched on the RFQ package, but if there's honestly any questions or maybe a little bit more clarity for the RFQ in terms of which areas, or if we wanted to give an overview of the improvements that you all are looking for. I know we've heard a couple individual residents have concerns about specific trees, but whether that's your perimeter buffers, the entryway road, the clubhouse, and this is a large community. Once it gets to 20 years, there's a lot of landscaping that's kind of reached the end of their lifespan and ends up kind of being dated compared to neighboring properties. So happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Do you have specific vendors that you work with for product?
For specific landscape product?
Yeah.
So I will say we are not a design build firm. We don't do installation, but we do have a list of landscape contractors that we like to, I guess, recommend to our clients. Okay. Definitely have a library of those.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question. If you, since you don't do installation, how do you monitor the install process to make sure it is actually consistent with the design?
So what we would do is we obviously provide the contract documents, your construction documents with the landscape plan. We typically do construction phase services at the end of the project. We'll be out here, not while they're installing, but we do inspections and punch lists to make sure that what you all paid for, especially if is installed per the bid document. So we do punch lists We're going through a number of those right now where we're providing PDF markups for the landscape contractor to go replace material that was dead, or if they missed out on plant material that was purchased and it's just missing in the field. Prior to doing any construction, we would typically take care of any value engineering changes. So they would bid our original plans. You would get a cost estimate back. We typically can provide an opinion of probable cost. Obviously, we're not the ones going to purchase the plant material, but we have avenues that we take with our local nursery databases so that when we're proposing plans, we can give a kind of eyeball back check on how much that landscaping is probably going to cost based on average nursery databases. But we would be kind of boots in the ground after construction before the contractor is signed off on the project.
Okay, thank you. And also, if we were gonna step back at this point and do a new master landscape plan for the whole community, how do you see that process going and on what kind of timeline?
Well, it would be a longer timeline than just doing a couple of the smaller areas, but I think you had a point earlier about having, the whole master plan vision versus just someone bidding on a $30,000 project. We definitely have the capability, and we've done larger landscape plans in this community, but we would probably phase it out. Like a slice of cheese, shrubs and ground cover prices have gone up in the last couple of years too, and they're likely just going to keep climbing. So I think we would work with your team and understand what are the high priority areas, take care of those first, but overall we could provide an overall master plan that has different phases, again, working with this board.
Would we hire you on a contract basis, on an hourly basis? How would that work?
So it depends. Our construction documents, task and schematic design, site observations, those typically we would do a lump sum, but when it comes to meetings and coordination, construction phase services, that can be an hourly, not to exceed hourly, but we would have to go, have deeper conversations with you on how you would want to approach that.
What I would envision, I mean, it's up to you, but what I've seen in the past, and what I would envision is us working up a contract where they're retained as our landscape architect, and then they would submit work orders / proposals for the different projects that they're working on. It'd be based on their hourly rate.
And we could check, but since we've done so much work in this community, we might have a master services agreement where we're just issuing an IPO to that, and it makes it a little bit quicker. Yeah, we could look into that.
And then you mentioned phases, and I apologize, it's probably an ignorant question on my part, but is there an RFP that's issued for each of the phases, if that's how it's done? Since you're not doing the build out to get bids, for each of the phases, is that how it would work?
I think that if you have a landscape contractor that would, issue to install maybe phase one, they could give you maybe an estimate for the future phases, but with some contingency, knowing that if you're telling them, we want this phase to start within a year, or this is a 5-year plan down the road, it's hard for us or them to really give cost estimates just based on market value. But I don't know that there would be a.
Yeah, I think it's up to you. I mean, you could take the approach of trying to define all that now and work through that, and in some cases, you may have to go out for individual RFPs, where if you've got a very defined scope of work that you can issue, you're going to get pricing on it, and you may need to come back and do all those individual. Or what you can do is you can ultimately competitively bid the first couple, and if you find that you're working with a contractor, you could maybe advertise similar to what you're talking about with us, where you could then issue IPOs directly to them to where you feel like you've got a good competitive bid. You just got to always be mindful of those prices creeping up. So, competition is certainly good, and so I would encourage it, but you may get to a point where you feel comfortable with going directly to a specific contractor.
You guys did the original landscaping plans for this community?
It was, Kimberly Horn was the civil engineer's office.
Yeah.
My assumption is that we probably did the code minimum landscape plans back in 2000. I'm not fully aware. I know that we were heavily involved in the master planning and all the civil site design.
Any other questions?
No, very helpful.
So board members,
The engineering part.
just from a procedural standpoint, statute required that we go through the RFQ process, which we did. We got a submittal, seems like an excellent submittal, it's for your consideration. You're free to, although we like to see more submittals, always, we got one, and you're free to go with the one. There's nothing statutorily that prohibits you from doing that, so that is your decision.
Well, question, can we, since we only received one, can we negotiate the price wise or fees wise?
Well, this is what's called the CCNA, Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act process. And by statute, because I get asked this question all the time, you're not allowed to look at pricing until you've ranked who you want to negotiate with.
All right.
So if you should decide that you're happy with the presentation from Kimley Horn and you want to move forward with negotiating a contract with them, then yes, then they'll give us their rates, and we'll move forward into that next process.
Okay.
So if you're so inclined, it would be a motion to award the RFQ to Kimley Horn and authorize staff to negotiate the contract agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Is Cheryl still on the line?
Oh, I'm sorry, I should.
Yes,
Cheryl.
I am.
Oh, okay, I withdraw that. It's on you.
Do you want to make the motion, Cheryl?
Cheryl.
Well, I do have a question, a procedural question,
Yes.
Andy, and it is that there has been another entrant who did not get in on time who would like to propose. I'm not saying we should wait, but I'm just asking procedurally, what is the process for that?
Procedurally, you would have to scrap this RFQ process and start anew. We had established deadlines, and so we can't just let somebody say, oh, I was an hour late, can I bid too?
And Kimley Horn could just then resubmit.
If they wanted or choose not to,
Right,
but we had a
understood.
process
All
with
right.
deadlines, and we got one submittal on time that met our requirements. If there's somebody else who's interested, it's either too late, or if you as a board decide that you're not happy with Kimley Horn or want to redo the process, that's your prerogative. But we can't just say, show us your bid too now,
That's fine. And then I have another question, which is, how does this work from the CDD, from a government regulation perspective on length of time of the agreement when you negotiate it?
I would anticipate that we'll have a continuing agreement, like I mentioned before, there'll be a continuing contract with termination provisions, and they would have work orders / proposals for the different things that they're proposing for the district. So they would become your, quote, district landscape architect, like you have a district engineer with a continuing contract, and they'd have work orders and proposals for the different things you'd be utilizing them for. At the same time, we have a termination provision like we do with all of our vendors. So if you're not happy with their services or they're not happy working for us, we'd be able to exit.
Okay, and then how do you foresee, if you started on the contract negotiation, would you bring that contract back to the next meeting for us to review?
I think that we can make that happen. I would start with asking Kimley Horn for I'm sure they have a general form. And we take that and negotiate whatever changes we had. And I would anticipate we could have it. I'm not sure if you're meeting the end of this month or if you're not meeting until next month.
No, we're not meeting until the 14th of October.
I would anticipate that we'd be able to make that deadline.
Okay, then I would make the motion that we move forward with negotiating a contract or for a retainer with Kimley Horn as our landscape architect.
I'll second that.
Second, do we have to indicate they were the only responsible bidder or something, sole bidder in this motion?
I think we have on the record, but I'll be glad to voice it right now to say that this was the only submittal received, but it's well within our statutory rights to proceed should you so choose.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Any further discussion?
So if we move on to contract negotiations and we can't come to terms, then we start the process over?
Correct.
Cool.
Okay.
Any other questions? No. Okay, can we call it?
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you.
Very nice meeting you.
Thank you for
Thank you
waiting.
for coming today. Linda, we had in the workshop discussed the second meeting in September, and there would not be a quorum. So I should have said that before I said no, the meeting's on the 14th.
Okay. Okay, so we'll cancel.
Yes, you have to cancel this.
So moving forward, we're gonna move into item number 5A, which is the consideration of the Aegis insurance renewal proposal. That is behind tab number 5 for your review. So the good news is the proposal is actually less than our budget. Our property policy is $2,795 less than budget. General liability, $861 less. Public officials, $805 less, and crime policy, $912 less. So there is some savings in what was provided. I did review the property schedule. It does coincide with what we have.
Ooh, we're missing a monument.
There's a monument, I think, Palermo, that needs to be added, but there's also, I think, a fountain on aerator that needs to be added as well. But those can be added via endorsement. So I will submit those to Aegis. Other than that, I didn't see anything else that needed to be changed.
Okay.
I had one wacky, there was a wacky number, unless I'm wacky reading it. It looks like the pool's amount went from 280,000 to 940,000. Am I reading that wrong? Mark, I can tell you what page. Yeah. What page number on here? It's the fourth page from the back, fifth page from the back. Top of the page is gatehouse and gates, and then it's unit number 6. It says pools. I compared it against last year, and it was 280,500 in 2023 and 940,200 this year. I'm just curious. Maybe it's found that odd. I read it wrong.
I don't have last year's with me, Joe.
Okay,
I
no
will have
worries.
to go back.
Okay. And I was the only other thing that I think is not one of those kinds of questions is the tiki bar value, which is very low. What is that? The insured value is at 55,000.
They were on site, so
seems kind of low. The equipment's worth more than that.
I don't know, Joe. I would have to ask, because they were recently on site and reappraised everything and increased the value of the building itself. But I can ask if you want to increase the tiki, they can.
I think we need to because there's, well, I think the equipment alone is probably worth that, more than that even.
Because they did increase the River Club substantially. So I'm not sure whether or not they're taking that into consideration with the increased value of the club itself.
That's the second
I
one.
mean, it's up to you, board, but you could approve it subject to those questions
Oh, I
being
see.
investigated
Okay,
today if
that's a
you'd
good
like,
idea.
or you can wait, you know.
That's a good idea.
Because you do have building and content, so
I'm not
I'm
sure when
pretty
the other
sure-
one's up, but it's probably end of September is my guess.
Yeah.
So I think it's beneficial to
Okay.
get bound at least.
you could increase your values and then they can do it via an endorsement. That's
Okay.
not an issue.
Okay, those were the main ones I had.
Sure.
It's worth asking the question.
Yes.
I do have the 2020.
So then it would be a motion to approve the Aegis insurance renewal proposal subject to, with, I won't say subject to, I'll say with follow-up of reporting back on the questions raised today. How's that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You know, this is just from lack of knowledge, I guess. Under the extensions of coverage, what are those, so like in K, lawns, plants, trees, and shrubs,
That's what I had.
what are they covering?
We all have that.
I don't know what he's looking at. What page are
What
you
page you
looking
on?
at, Ken?
What's page 4? 4,
4 of the document?
yes. It says
Or,
lawns, plants, trees, and shrubs, claim. Did we make a claim?
Well, I'm sure we did, but it was below the deductible was the problem.
Does that include storm damage?
No, well, if a tree, for example, falls on top of the club, then the insurance company would pay to remove the tree. That's what the extension would be.
Well, I don't understand, how
Okay,
does that?
So there's nothing from all of our damage that's covered in here,
No,
other than that one little thing we got?
other than that one little thing. So it would have to be damage to your property, not where it would just fall, for example. So if the tree, for example, the tree surrounding the river club fell on the river club, then they would pay for the removal of the debris because it fell on the club. But if it fell, for example, like you had trees falling down the road, it wouldn't cover. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, and the tennis canopy, that stuff?
That's covered. But if you have a deductible.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, with regards to duty to defend, it limits us to $100,000. Is that reasonable, Andy? Estimate if we got hit with a big lawsuit? Lawyers down here will use that up 1 month.
I'm not sure which section.
Okay, same page, page 4, extension coverage.
Let's take a look.
Duty
to defend.
F.
I see it, 100,000. Yeah, I mean, depending upon the litigation, that certainly could get used up quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of low.
I don't know if they're able to raise it or what the premium difference would be, but that's something Belinda could check on as well if you want.
Would you please?
I can.
Yeah, worth asking.
Yes.
And I'm still having trouble with that K, lawns, plants, trees, and shrubs. How can a lawn, I'm following you, I just have a problem with that. Okay, just make the inquiry.
I'm gonna call the vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
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 We now have item number 5B, which is a review and discussion regarding House Bill 7013, Goals and Objectives Memo. We have the review of the Venetian CDD goals and objectives, which are behind tab number 7. The memo is behind tab number 6. And we also have the consideration of resolution 2024-09, adopting goals and objectives. This is behind tab number 8 for your review.
I have a super quick question, which is if we said no changes and we file it today, we can just amend it by resolution, can't we?
Absolutely.
I mean, isn't that maybe simpler because A, it's late, and B, none of us have really had a chance to, well, I tried, but what do you all think?
Well, these are really simple
Yeah.
objectives. Some districts are implementing, I have one that just implemented one goal, one objective.
There's nothing, I'll jump in if you don't
Yeah.
mind. There's nothing in the legislation that gives us any guidance more than.
No, I
what
read
we
the
have
statute,
here.
yeah.
So, and there's no penalties either, by the
Right.
way. So everybody is sort of learning as they go, I'll say. And I will say, and I support what Belinda said, that 99.9% of my districts are using this first year to be very simple
Right.
in terms of the goals, to make sure that they are achievable. Some, you may not achieve them, and that's okay too.
Right.
But they're not getting, and you can blaze your own path, I'll say that too, but we're not getting into detail. We're trying to just hit the overarching goals of, financial accountability, involvement of residents in our meetings, transparency, things along those lines. Yet the strategic goals that have been done, much more detailed and tailored to your community. And that was excellent piece of work that involved a lot of diligence by a lot of people, trying to accomplish what the legislator has put out there. So.
The only item on here that I would ask the board to review is the number of meetings.
Yeah, it says 18.
At 18,
Right.
which compares to what we had last year. So last year I had Karen review how many meetings we held, and there were a total of 18. That can change as well. We can reduce it. It's really up to
I
you.
would say reduce it. You can always have more meetings than that.
Right.
But why set
agree with
yourself
that.
up for failure?
I would agree with that. So why don't we reduce that to
12.
12?
Well,
I circled that too.
Does that take into consideration workshops?
It does.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
And Jill, as you said, this is not set in stone. I mean, and if next meeting you decide, oh, we left off the whatever, and you want to make a change,
It could be
you certainly
added.
can.
We should just meet the deadline and then.
Yeah.
figure it out.
And you can add to it, you
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
amend it, you can, there's really
Yeah.
no.
And the
no
annual
end to it.
report will be published, will be put on your website in December, but it will not start till December of 2025.
Correct.
So,
Okay, so we're looking to approve this? so that we
looking
can-
for a motion to approve the resolution
We've got one amendment.
2024-09 with the one amendment.
Oh, that's gonna, but it just says attachment A, so, right.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any other questions?
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
aye.
Okay.
We're now going to move into item number 5B, which is a review and consideration of the Facilities Advisory Committee recommendation related to the locker room renovations. This is behind tab number 10 for your review.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just pick this up, just 15 seconds worth. So you all on the board would have gotten a memo from Tim Carter, who's here, she's the chair of the Facilities Committee. Long and short of it is the committee is gonna be asking the board for $5,000 to start the design work, which would allow us to get more information behind potential locker room renovation. So with your okay, I'd like to just ask Tim if he could come up and give you the 2 cents. And then if you have questions, he's the guy, not me.
Right, well, we, Bob Raffato interviewed a few different architects. And you'll see a proposal in there from TA Krebs. They offered us what we felt was the best services. They capped their proposal at the final design price. I believe that was, I don't have it in front of me,
12.8?
at 7%, I believe.
Yes, 7%.
Yes, but their initial design fee is $5,000.
Right.
And that's what we're looking to get them started on, their initial design for the new locker rooms. We're going to eliminate most of the showers and just have 2 showers in each of the locker rooms. We're not a bathhouse, we don't need that many showers. We also want to eliminate most of the lockers, just have a dozen lockers. The lockers are transient, they're not permanent storage.
Right.
They're for use while you're using the facilities here. So that's the long and short of it.
I have a question. While you're eliminating things, do you think
Why?
there's, while you are
Oh, why?
eliminating things, what about eliminating the urinals?
You want to eliminate the urinals?
Why do we need it? Honestly, I mean, the toilet does the same thing.
I know,
Wouldn't we-
I
wouldn't we
think
be
that's the
saving-
most, at least in the men's room, that's the most used piece of equipment in the men's room.
It likely is, but wouldn't a toilet solve the same issue?
Of the men's locker room, because as we know, if you've ever used a public toilet, a lot of people have a very hard time aiming.
An aim issue?
All right. and,
I knew this was gonna be a fun discussion.
Thank you so much.
While I was
You know,
reading through
you have an
this.
example of, you wanted to show us, we can wait till next meeting.
It was just a thought, how much money would that save if we eliminated?
Well, we could eliminate, say, one toilet in the men's room and just put the handicap toilet. And maintenance-wise, I believe you're a lot less maintenance with the urinals. That's my opinion, I didn't ask our committee that opinion. But we could ask that, if we get the approval to the design architect, we can ask these questions.
Perfect.
But do we pick up any space by doing that?
Yes, we do.
So
The additional space that we would pick up by eliminating lockers, we're looking to create additional storage for the River Club.
And that could help us, so we're not dealing with potentially, for example, storing things in the attic.
Yes.
We could store them in the
And the additional lockers that would be left over, we're looking to maybe repurpose a few of those for the people that like to keep, say, their card games locked up here. They don't have to lock them in the locker rooms. They could lock it in a storage closet. Also, the River Club staff, we don't know how they lock their personal items while they're working.
Fine.
And possibly use some of those.
All right, so you're asking for $5,000
Yeah.
to move forward with this.
Yeah, so I'd like to make that motion.
Fine, I'll second that. Any other discussion?
All those in
Yeah,
favor?
I have a question. Why do we feel this needs to be done now?
Well, it's one of the most high-traffic areas of a lot, at least the men's locker room is a very high-traffic area. It's used every single day by multiple people that use our facilities, whether it's the people in the fitness center, most people that use it are lap pool people. And I believe it's scheduled for 2025 on your,
I think it's 2026.
It was moved to 2026, yeah.
well,
Yeah, but remember, that's the main bathroom for the pool, et cetera. And this, in realistic terms, in my opinion, and Tim, please, jump in. By the time, so this is the initial work. So for example, the work doesn't, it's probably not gonna start, for some time yet. We've got to get the work done, et cetera. So whenever it is, we do it, and the committee feels we should do it in the next fiscal year, the work still has to be done, the design work, so we know what we're looking at in terms of a bid. And remember that prices are only gonna go up anyway, so.
looking to actually have the physical work done the summer of 2025.
So this is preliminary.
Well, preliminary design.
Right.
The design will be available whether you use it next year or year after.
Being a little proactive, which is a good thing. Okay.
Usually.
All right, we have a motion that's been seconded. Any other questions? Can we call it?
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye, sorry.
Well, and while we have Tim here, on the tower.
We have Tim on the tower?
The next item, yeah. I mean, so I asked Tim if he could just be available for some questions on this. The committee's really just looking for some direction, and maybe because of the late hour, we're gonna need to defer it. We've deferred it, a long time anyway, but, maybe just the brief summary I would say is that, the tower repairs naturally have necessitated discussion about repainting.
Right.
And once you go down that road, the question becomes repainting what? Because the tower has the issue of height, so we're talking about either scaffolding or something else, and this is where I would turn it over to Tim.
We've had a few contractors look at the rear tower. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but there's a problem with the fascia all the way at the top of the tower. And pretty much that fascia has to be replaced. And if you look closely, that goes for the entire tower, all the way around. Initial quotes to just access that tower, scaffold rentals and such, is $15,000 just to get to where they have to work. And that's being driven by the footprint of the tower and the surrounding facility. Right, it's very hard to get to the side of the tower where the lap pool is. And obviously, it's hard also to get to the rear of the tower where the walkway is, the boardwalk is. So the thought is that if you're gonna spend that much money to go all the way up there and do all the fixing and repairing of just the fascia, and there's also, you'll see stains and stuff on the tower itself. The tower should be painted while they scaffold it. Now, if they do paint the tower, you just want to paint the tower. When you want to paint the tower a different color, that maybe you're going to eventually paint the entire River Club a new tower. Yeah, I mean, the new color. So you're gonna spend X amount of dollars just fixing and repairing the tower, maybe paint it. And then, or just, if you're going to paint it, why not just paint the entire club? Because it would be a lot cheaper to do it all at once. And paint the entire club, which also includes the tennis shed, it includes the front gatehouse, contractor bid everything. You can see the line item prices. Just painting it the same exact color, painting everything would come to close to $100,000.
Right. And that's not
If
due
you
to-
change the color, that price goes up.
Yeah.
So this is not a decision that has to be made today. This is information for you to review.
Okay.
But we want to, should we pursue just looking and just dealing with the tower itself? Or should we look further into getting additional quotes on painting the entire River Club?
Yeah, I think we need some time to
Digest it?
digest that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Supervisor, just so you know, it's in the reserve study, I think for 2030.
Yes, you're looking at quite a way out.
Is that right, Ken?
Yeah.
I think 2030? Yeah, it's certainly ways out. I mean, we can
It's
discuss more.
2030, but wasn't the River Club painted in 2020?
Not the whole club.
I think there was
I
a
don't know.
paint.
I
There
thought
was
somebody
some
mentioned they
painting
only
that was
painted the height that you reached. They didn't paint
And not by a professional company.
done.
by
No, they
maintenance,
used,
yeah.
they used staff here and they rented a high-low.
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I don't know exactly how much was done. Certainly all the lower parts were done.
Sure.
So, I guess, because we're running out of time, what I encourage is if any of you have questions, just go right, since you can't talk to me and I don't know anything about this stuff, just go right to Tim. Because he's the guy who knows everything, so that way at the next meeting, if we want to bring it up again, and I'll put it on the agenda in case we do, that'll save some time.
Tim, I have one question.
Yeah.
All that space in the tower. It's
Inside the
not
tower or
utilized.
outside the tower?
Inside the tower. It's not utilized at all, is it?
No, it isn't. But it's
That's
also
a
not
facade.
easy to access as well.
Oh. So it's just useless, it's for design and, okay.
Well, there was discussion possibly putting a tiki bar up there.
Yeah, that's what Tim was saying.
Put a rooftop bar.
You're good.
It escaped.
It's got a beautiful view.
Zip line.
Zip line.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for
Good
your-
job, Tim.
Appreciate
Good job.
it.
Thanks for your work.
Appreciate it. So we'll cover the next meeting.
We now have the approval of the reserve study.
Should we just make a motion?
Oh,
Yeah, this is just going back, we never formally approved the study that was done back earlier in the year.
Right.
Do you have a reason for this?
Okay, so we need a motion.
Make a motion that we approve it?
Is there a second?
second.
Ernest? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
We now have the update on the Masala work group.
Yeah, so Nancy.
Before you do that, I'm gonna sign off.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks,
Bonjour,
Cheryl.
bonjour.
Safe
You
travels.
guys have a good one.
I'm turning it over to Nancy.
Okay, I was just gonna give you a quick update. No request for any money on anything. Yay!
My kind of discussion.
So the LaSalle Working Group, as you know, was formed 7 months ago. We have a representative from Facilities, Social and Dining, Racket Sports, and Pool and Fitness Committee, as well as Jill on the committee. Since We formed it 7 months ago. We've had 17 meetings. We meet 2 to 3 times a month. And we have visited 12 other properties in the immediate area that are either new builds or recently rehabbed, and to look at the social facilities at those communities to get an idea of what they're currently providing for newer facilities, not 20-year-old facilities, so that we have that perspective. We've also met with the general manager and food and beverage manager at another club that was recently rehabbed to ask them about the process, what they would have done differently, if they, could take back some of the decisions and what the advantages of their rehab were to them. And then at that point, we decided we wanted to start getting perspective of the residents, which is one of the most important things to us. What do the residents want the La Sala Bar to be and have in it? So we started out by drafting a short survey, and we got 50 completed surveys from residents. This was not intended to be fully comprehensive. 50 is a small percentage of our community, but it was to allow us to start thinking about what are the things that residents are saying and asking about pros and cons. Why did they come here or not come here? To start to formulate our further questions that we wanted to bring to the broader community, so that we could hold focus groups and we would know what kinds of things to cover with them. And at that point, we identified a woman who lives here, Linda Wine, who's an experienced focus group facilitator. That's what she's done as the job. And we asked her if she would join our group to facilitate focus groups going forward. So she's been joining us since that point in time so that we could formulate a plan for focus groups. Also, Bernard, Julie, and Therese have joined many of our meetings to add their perspective and hear about our perspective on La Sala. And so our next step is to schedule focus groups. We have had 1 focus group so far. We have 2 more scheduled for September, based on a community-wide emailing, would you like to be in a focus group? And those people that were available in September, we have about 10 people per focus group, have been scheduled. We have 1 scheduled for October, which is an evening focus group, because people have said to us, those that work, that they want to be able to participate. And we want to continue to hold these for an extended period till the seasonal people come back. We can hear from every and all residents that are interested in giving us their opinion through a focus group. So that will be an ongoing process that will continue through the next year. We've reviewed the community survey that you all did to see what was being said about the La Sala, so that we can incorporate that in our focus group questions. We've met with an architect who's a member of the River Club, just to, look around and give us his general thoughts about, why do you have this, you could consider this. We're having a meeting this week with a resident who has 30 years of experience in the hospitality business and renovation of bars, to get his perspective by seeing the facility and speaking about it. And we're setting up a meeting with another 30-year owner of a restaurant bar located in New Jersey, to get his perspective. So we're reaching out in a lot of different avenues to try to get feedback, input, what are other people doing, what are experts saying, so that we can formulate a plan that the residents want in that facility based on all of that information.
Good.
That's my update. Any questions?
Thank you.
I would just add that this group is working really hard, meeting every other week, and there's a lot of, because we're working in a way that doesn't involve, we don't have to adhere to sunshine for Andes, since we're not an official committee, there's a whole lot of work that's going on, so I think it's gonna yield good things. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
The next item on the agenda is item number 6A, which is a consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on August 12, 2024. These are behind tab number 13 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented?
I have no additional changes.
There are no questions, comments, and/or changes. We've been looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 6B, which is the ratification of the operations and maintenance expenditures for the month of July 2024. These are behind tab number 14 for your review. The expenditures for the period of July 1st through 31st total to $370,887.64. Any questions regarding the expenditures?
I just had one quick one. I think it's probably a Keith question. There was a deposit for the decor at the front gate for the holidays. It was like $2,400. Is that the lights only, or is that like?
That's for the whole kit and
It's the
caboodle.
whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, that's a half,
20%.
you gotta pay half up front and then,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Got it, includes lights. Okay, great, thanks. That's all I have.
There are no other questions? We've been
One
looking
more
for a motion.
question, aquatic consultant. I noticed the 21 charges, this was storm related,
No, this is when they went around the wetlands and the wetlands.
the wetlands, okay.
We've been looking for a motion to ratify.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
How do you come with those slides?
We'll now move into consent items. We do have the Facilities Advisory Committee meeting minutes of June 4th and July 2nd for your acceptance.
I'll make a motion to accept
Second.
with Jill's name spelled correctly.
I know, retroactively.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Supervisor requests or comments? Are there any supervisor requests or comments?
I just wanted to update my fellow supervisors, including Ken, who's on the phone, that the parking lot light project is about 50% complete, meaning installed. And the only other thing I'll add is there seems to be something of a light spillover on the, as you might have noticed, Rich, from the parking lot
We were
toward
away
the
for almost
pond.
3 weeks.
Oh,
Haven't noticed
and-
it yet.
So, but the shipper sent some, it kind of looked like Shea Stadium from one angle.
Yeah.
But I think it has to do with angle of the lights, and also, we're gonna be looking at a number of things, including possibly for that light anyway, we may need a shroud, but Tim Carr, who was just here, is on that. So it's really for, just so you know, we're halfway along. Actually, it looks quite good. I did come up last night, and we will get the issues resolved in terms of light spillover, but I think it looks pretty good.
Well, we said that from the beginning.
Yes.
That they may need a canopy or something, but I
Yeah,
don't want
yeah,
to call it.
Yeah,
Shroud.
it looks, I have to say, in terms of safety wise, I think if you step off the curb from the front, from having had dinner, and it's 8:45 at night, you're gonna see a big improvement.
And it also allows the deer to see what they're eating.
It does.
The
Maybe they'll choose
The
better.
rats.
The rats or monkeys. That's all I have.
Any other supervisor requests or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple of quick things that I should have asked Rick Shapaker, and maybe Keith knows something, or Bernard. Has there been any further discussion or planning about paving the River Club parking lot? Anybody know?
Yes, that's a facilities committee thing, and that's why we wanted to do the lights first, because the paving
Yeah.
is coming after. So yes, there has been discussion with Rick on that, and it's being looked at by facilities in conjunction with, it will be with Bernard and Rick.
All right, because we're gonna get into busy season, so
I
it
know.
just seems like
Yeah,
it would have been, have we got, I assume we haven't even gotten to a bid or a quote
don't think
stage yet?
so, don't think so. I'll check that with Tim and I'll let Keith know.
Yeah, because I think, if it was gonna be done, we'd want it done
Yeah, right after the lights.
before October, before November, December, but it may be too late for that.
Yeah, I'll check that.
Thanks. Just a comment on, and I couldn't write to everybody for sunshine reasons, but I wrote back to Vesta regarding the P&Ls that were issued, that I was very disappointed. I thought Julie had indicated last month that she would be sending me reports to review, but she never did. And then these came out, and I'm not sure what Rosetta's gonna do with them for consolidation, but boy, the content formatting, very disappointing. They've gotta be reconfigured, and I will try to set up a call with Ricardo or Dan and whoever else needs to be to talk about these. Julie, there's just way too much detail, and it's kind of a data GL dump and not really consolidated P&Ls. There's a couple of things that appear to be missing that I've raised questions about. Costs that we typically have that aren't showing up, and a couple of formatting things, plus the loss of year-to-date budget, prior year information. I don't know if that's gonna be captured going forward, and they were just trying to get these out now, but there's a lot of follow-up that needs to be done.
These came in on Friday afternoon,
Yeah.
Supervisor, so
Yeah.
Vanessa really hasn't had a chance yet to take a look. I haven't spoken to her today, but I think she said that she would be reviewing them tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Okay. No,
if anything, I'm pretty sure she'll reach out and she'll reach out to Ricardo or whoever she needs to at Vesta if she has any questions.
okay, let me know if I can help.
I will. Did you have anything else, Ken?
No, sorry, that's it.
Any other supervisor requests or comments?
On a positive note, I think they did a great job with the new pavers and out there at the pickleball courts. I have to just big ups, as they would say in my community, to the job. Well done. Looks great out there. The players are ecstatic about it. They only wish we could address the issue of furniture out there. We have old furniture that is carryover from the pool, and it serves the purpose now, but it's problematic furniture.
Could be a budget item for
Yes.
next time.
Okay. Or we'll deal with putting bleachers or benches out there eventually. Okay, to be continued. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. It is 12:42 PM. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye.